Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Hey, Miguel Iturrate back here on the Lights Out podcast, and you're back too. Thank you very much for returning. Bring a friend. We are off on another deep dive. I've got the MMA detective Mike Davis with me as always. And Chris Lytle is on the road doing some work with whiskey or who knows, the BKFC or whatever. You know, he's got it all going on. But he has assigned us a deep dive with one of those guys that you're not likely to know, but you're going to like him after this podcast, I'm pretty sure. Mike, who we got?
Yeah, we got Frank Trevino. He is a product of the Southwest Texas scene, which is kind of bonkers. Now, he really stayed loyal to like one organization in particular. But in regards to the Wild West, like that area of mixed martial arts, we talk a lot about like the Midwest or California, like you've heard in several of our past interviews in regards to, you know, washing drug money. At Southwest Texas scene is like bonkers, and Frank was a staple of it and a mainstay, and it's going to be a topic that we discuss, just kind of like the activities surrounding the events at that time. And he's a pretty charismatic guy, so it's going to be a fun interview just discussing his career along.
Yep, and for fans there, but who is he or what is he? He made the UFC, he got himself to the UFC, and he was actually the debut fight before he got cut, and he had a bad, we'll talk about it, but and he fought Sage Northcutt's in Northcutt's debut. So he didn't get to the top level of the UFC, but he got in the door, and usually in and out, there's a story there too. So we'll see what we get. Frankie Trevino.
These are the brick and mortar guys that build the foundation that the UFC is on top of. So these interviews to us are just as important as somebody like, you know, that we've had in the past, and you know that has, you know, gotten into that top 10 rankings. Ladies and gentlemen, no, wait a minute. Do not fast forward yet. Like, share, subscribe. I will tell you, man, dude, Miguel, our numbers, like they keep going up, and dude, we're incredibly thankful for that. The comments, the reviews, Cade Swallows, the comments by him, Crowbar sharing our stuff, Genghis Conrad helping us with the times. Everybody's starting to pitch in to help make this podcast work. And if we continue growing in this direction, you know, we might make $100 like a month on it. So nice. Everybody's hard work is greatly appreciated. Sincerely. And Miguel, I said we get to the interview.
Frank Trevino up next. Miguel Iturrate back here on the Lights Out podcast. Chris Lytle has us off on another deep dive. That's the MMA detective, and we are joined by South Texas and Francisco Trevino. Or is it Mexican? How do you associate?
Well, I'm a Mexican. Because I was born in Mexico. I was born in Reynosa, but I was raised here in Texas since I was like 4 years old. So I'm pretty much American.
Okay. That's cool. Well, you just heard one of the things that's very interesting on it, so we're going to get a deep dive into the South Texas scene. Mike, take over.
Yeah, it's super important. Like around the time, like Frank, your first fight was August 2nd, 2008. But I think it's really important to kind of encapsulate what this era in mixed martial arts was. At this time, Frank, the largest demographic of fight fans for boxing come from what country?
From Mexico.
Oh man, and that's the second is so far behind. You can combine the next two countries together, and it still doesn't equal the fan base in Mexico.
It doesn't. They're so hardcore. They got Russian guys saying they fight Mexican style. Come on.
Yes. So, in essence, right around this time, the UFC understands that there's this gigantic market south of us, and they're almost desperately trying to find a Mexican star. And in their travels, they really concentrated on the South Texas area, because in Mexico, Frank, I think we can agree mixed martial arts was years away from really kind of establishing itself. Now they've got a natural, homegrown champion.
Yep.
Who mostly trains in the United States, I might add. But,
Yeah.
It exists. And at this time, they really wanted somebody from Mexican heritage to represent the brand.
Correct.
And this is the exact same time you're cutting your teeth. So
Yeah.
why don't we talk August 2nd, 2008, South Texas Fighting Championship 3. Your first bout is against Shaun Wagner.
Wow, that was an interesting fight because I was fighting at that time at 205, so I was fighting light heavyweight. I was coming down from I believe 275 pounds that I had weighed in before, and I mean I did a pretty much whole transition in my life there. So when I got that fight, I was like maybe 230, 240. So the jump to 205 wasn't really too. Not out of this world, So I went ahead and did it, went for it. And then I get in the ring with Mr. Wagner, and shit you not, I honestly thought I was fighting like a Randy Couture double. Like he literally looked like, to me, I thought I was Randy Couture in there. I was like, what the fuck? Like, who is this? Oh, sorry. I don't know if I could cuss.
No, we're good. We're good. Keep going.
But I was like, what the heck? Who's this guy? Like it really freaked me out for the split second that I was looking at him. But, after, we started trading punches and whatnot, I felt kind of at home, and, it ended pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Hey, but let me ask you, what was your role here? Because looking over the picture, you're getting started here in your mid-20s. So how did you get here when you were just, like when you were 20, were you a martial artist? Did you box? No. Or were you kind of like a street kid that fought a lot? Or like, what was your background that got you to that first fight? How'd you get there?
No, what's funny is that I hardly ever fought. As when I was growing up, I actually avoided the fights. I avoided the fights mainly because I was an illegal, I didn't want to get in trouble. So I avoided all sorts of confrontations, all sorts of anything. I just avoided it, threw my hands away from it. Same thing with like martial arts and anything like that. I did karate for like maybe a year, maybe a year when I was like 10, but it wasn't for me. Like I did it. I was beating up on their little black belts, and I was like, no, this is not for me. I got to get out of here. I'm not learning anything, So years go by, and I get crazily into football. Texas, football is big in Texas, and I dedicated my life to football. So I went from, being a little leaner to gaining a lot of weight because I was a defensive tackle, so I wanted to fill that position in properly. I didn't want to be that 205 defensive tackle. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, 275. You're actually probably a small defensive tackle in Texas.
I really was. I really was.
So in essence, like your first time that you stepped into the cage,
yes,
did you realize that the entire direction of your life was about to change?
I didn't. I honestly didn't. Whenever I took that fight, I honestly thought that the matchmaker was trying to get me, because like I told you, I'm a kid. I was a kid that had very little confidence in himself. When I walked into that ring and I see this opponent and I see his physique is just way better than mine, it's like I said, it shocked me for a second. So for a split second, I thought, you know what, this guy's out to get me. He's out to like prove a point that I don't belong here or something, So I kind of went red there, and unfortunately I took it out on Mr. Wagner, and I mean, I don't think he fought again after that, but
no,
that did take my kind of career after that, because it lit a fire under my butt. I don't know how to explain it really, but it just did.
It's a high, isn't it? You got high from it.
It really is. It's way more than you can get out of doing any sort of drug, any sort of anything. This thing kind of lifts you to another level, And
it lasts like for days.
It really does, especially when you got people constantly calling you, telling you how good of the job you did, and all that stuff. it's overwhelming, humbling, but also you have to know to stay in your lane. You know, like there's a lot of these guys that get really, really quicked up with the fame, and they're like, oh, well, I'm this and I'm that. I never even got like that. Like, not even when I was in the UFC, like, did I get like that? I never
stayed grounded.
I never considered myself quote unquote famous. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. They're like, oh, you have a Wikipedia. Who cares? You know.
But it did light a fire under you too, because like you said, you know, you get the highs and stuff, but in the back of your mind, you think you got it. You want to look the part, change your body, and you
exactly
275 to 205 is no joke.
No, it isn't. And like I said, it was a total life change for me, because from then I realized, you know, like I did that 205 fight and consciously knowing I'm going to do like maybe 4 more fights like this weight. And this is not a weight I need to stay at. You know, I'm 5'9", 5'10" at the highest, or at the, you know, at the
on your tippy toes.
Yeah, on my tiptoes. You know, so I mean, there's no way I could compete at that level at 205. And I consciously knew that. And I knew that I had to make a certain change in myself, my diet, my lifestyle in general. You know, I was gonna have to totally change. You know, it wasn't gonna be just one day.
You know, the thing, Frank, that I think we could both agree on, that high that you got.
Yeah.
Once you experience that and you go, yeah, I got to make some changes. Those hard life changes that you would have said, yeah, I think I'm not sure I want to do that. That doubt completely gets erased once you get that feeling of having your hand raised. You're like, no.
Yeah, once that high hits, all that goes away. All that doubt, all that, man, maybe I can't do this. It goes away in that instant, like that. Like you feel like Superman for a second, you know? You really do.
So Shaun Wagner, like the promoters did you a pretty big solid. You know, I know the guy you're talking about is physique, but Shaun Wagner comes in 1-1, and also on the undercard is a future UFC vet that's 0-2 at this time, named Eric Perez.
Yep.
Did you two ever work out together?
No. Unfortunately, man, me and Eric have a real weird past, man. We're kind of related in a sense because he trained with one of my ex-training partners, I guess you could say that, and which is Mike Valle. You know, I don't know, you know Mike Valle, I think his name Valle Flow or something like that.
Valley Flow, yeah.
He's cornered several UFC fighters before, but
he's got a gym here in the Chicagoland area, very successful.
Yes, very successful guy. Me and him don't butt heads too good. I think he's a fraud. I mean, that's just my opinion. You know, he is a successful guy. You know, I can't knock that, but I just don't think he paid his dues as much as I did. You know, as much as we did. I think he was always out to sabotage me and my buddies for no apparent reason. You know.
Are you talking about Perez?
No, Valle.
Mike Valle. Okay.
Yeah. And and that's an unfortunate thing, because Eric, we all liked him. We liked his brother. We all thought that they were amazing fighters. But aside of that, Mike had nothing to do with that. These guys were amazing fighters already because we met them in Mexico City. I mean, in Monterrey, when we went to that event, we saw them fight at that event. You know, so they already had skills when they were at that event. So he didn't do nothing to up their skill. That's kind of my beef with him. Like, you didn't do nothing, bro. Like you held pads for a guy that's already skilled. You know, cool.
Okay.
But,
now,
you know,
why did Valle leave Texas? He's here in Chicago now.
His con couldn't get off over here.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move on.
That's just the honest truth, bro. His con did not work over here. Everybody knew who he was. You know, when you go to some other place, guess what? You talk all this nonsense, and they'll believe it. You know, they'll jump on your train real quick. But you know, when you have a background here in an area, and people know who you are and know what you've done, you know, it speaks for itself. They're not gonna go to you if you're, you know, if it doesn't work out. I mean, he had a gym here for like I don't know what, 2 years, you know, Thai champ gym, and it shut down. And then he left it to some of the kids, and they ended up renaming it, you know. So, like I said, like it's just unfortunate that he had to move to be successful, you know. And again, like if you want to be successful like that, that's on you, you know. That's not, then you can sleep like that. That's on you, you know. That's not me. I'd rather starve.
So your first fight's August 2nd, 2008. It's at South Texas Fighting Championships 3. Your second one is for their very next event against George Zamerron. Are you a big ticket seller at this point?
No.
Really?
No, I'm not. I just had a lot of I had a lot of fans, man. I had a lot of people that were my family, pretty much. I sold a lot of tickets through family. And a lot of people actually would, and this is true, mind you, because a lot of people would tell me this. We would go to the fights to see if the fat guy would lose, which is me. Which is real funny to me whenever they tell me that, because I mean it's a funny thing, you know. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
Comedy, you know.
Hey, as long as they bought a ticket, you know, you're putting butts in seats. So George is also 1-1 going into this fight. So you're his third fight. So your first fight and your fifth fight, you're much different. But even though both of your opponents are 1-1, that amount of ring experience, no matter how little it is, it's still more than having 0 fights.
Yeah, it
like
really
the
is.
Jitters, the routine.
Exactly, it really is. And also the recovery time, like not freaking out when you get hit, you know. And that's something that actually happened in that fight, which nobody really knows. You know, if you look at the video, which is the video somewhere out there lost, I can't find it, you know, whatever, but it's somewhere out there lost. And when I first saw the video, you don't see it, but I know I felt it. And we were in close. I have him pressed up against the cage, and we're like in 50-50 position, and I have him pressed up against the cage, and he kind of shoulder shrugs me, and he hits me. It looks like nothing in camera, but I swear to God, everything's fun. I kind of like held on to him for dear life, like, whoa, bro, what happened?
Let's not do that again.
You know, and like I said, people don't see any of this stuff. They just think, oh, well, you went in there and you just tore him up. I was like, no, it wasn't that easy, bro. You know, I felt my jaw for about 2 weeks after that.
So you're fighting for the same organization, and you know your entire professional career. I don't think you even had an amateur one. Am I correct?
No, I didn't. My only amateur fight was in, like I said, Mexico, and that was a Muay Thai smoker, and I did a round robin, which is basically I fight one guy and then I fight another guy in the next round. You know.
Huh. That's interesting. So against George. Go ahead, Miguel.
I just want to ask, you're repeating on this South Texas show in McAllen. What's the scene like? Where is it? Is it in like a nice stadium, or is it like in an old building, or is the audience like mostly like Spanish speaking Mexican behind you, or is it mixed up? Like, what's the scene?
Yeah, it's mostly Mexican. The majority is Mexican orientated. I mean, yeah, we will have some, you know, other races involved, you know, because, you know, the valley's grown so much and there's so much other people here. But excuse me. Yeah, man. I mean, the shows are really, really, really nice put on. I mean, as far as like the production goes, and this is just my preference, you know.
No, they did a good job.
They did a really, really good job, whether it be putting you inside the cage, you know, the people in the back could see exactly what the heck was happening. You know, that's something that really you don't see in any other events. You know, I go to events like, or I see events like Fury, for example, and I feel like they could put a little bit more into their production, you know, like just a tad bit more. I mean, I know they do great, but I think they could do just a little bit better.
So with George, you win by KO. So your first round, Shaun Wagner, you won by submission.
Yeah.
What was it?
The submission that I won, but with Shaun Wagner was an armbar.
Okay, and then you get a knockout against Zamerron.
No.
Who are you?
I got a Kimura on Zamerron.
Oh, see, it's listed as a KO. Okay.
No,
Who are you training with? Who are you training with at this point?
I'm training with Cain, which is my Muay Thai instructor, and Bella de los Santos, which was my jiu-jitsu instructor at the time.
So you wound up with
de los
them.
Santos?
Excuse me?
Did you say David de los Santos?
Yes, David de los Santos. Bella?
I'm pretty sure he fought for me in hook and shoot.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yeah, he actually fought Jonathan Ivey, and I believe he beat Jonathan Ivey through the ankle lock, I believe.
Yeah, I do remember David. Yeah, good news. That's good. Nice connection. I got other questions for you, but Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So you fell in with these guys right away. How long of a time period before you took your first fight?
When I started training with him?
Yeah, when you started training.
Not long, really, because I did like 8 months, give or take, with my Muay Thai instructor. And then I had a run-in with the late Robert Villegas that came over to our gym.
Oh, I got that down. You had a real tough sparring session with Robert. I guess he showed up at your gym. Am I correct?
Yeah, he showed up at our gym, and we had actually put on a little in-house smoker with his, I guess, affiliated gym down there in the valley. And I mean, our guys demolished his guys, pretty bad, like it was pretty unfair. I felt like we kind of did bully them. But at the same time, I mean, they showed up for the fight. They said they trained in Muay Thai. So, we invited them over, as a friendly sparring session. We all did what we needed to do. Then like a week later, he comes over talking about that he needs to train for a fight because he's getting ready to make his pro debut. At the time, he was already an IFC champion, when he said this. And he's talking about that he wants to make his pro debut, that he needs training partners to get ready. So I'm under the impression that this guy is a nobody and just wants to train. When I get there, Mike Valle actually happens to be there in the facility, and he tells me, he's actually the one that tells me, "Hey, bro, that's Robert Villegas." And at the time, I was like, "Who?" Like, I don't know who he was, So the sparring session starts, and he puts on this like helmet type deal, and I start sparring with him, and I noticed that he's kind of being a little bit of a douche, like he's doing this shit, and I'm hitting him, and he's talking about, "Is that all you got?" And I'm like, "Bro, you got a freaking fake football helmet on. Like, take that shit off. I got a regular ass freaking headgear on. This guy's got a battle cage in front of his face. Yeah, you're not going to feel those punches, So at the time, I'm like, okay, whatever. So I keep sparring with the guy, and then it gets heated with him. And he starts he literally sucker punches me at the very end of the round because I pretty much schooled him the very first round. So the second round comes about, and I released on him. I started throwing elbows, started throwing jump kicks, and all sorts of crazy stuff at him. And just to kind of hurt the guy, because I was upset, I was upset too. And afterwards, I mean, he left in a piss poor shape. He was all pissed off, talking, that he wanted to challenge me, that he wanted to fight me in the cage, and yada yada yada, for me to contact the promoter, blah 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 blah. So I was like, okay, whatever. Then that video somehow gets out. Somehow that video gets out, and I get calls from all sorts of jiu-jitsu instructors talking, "Hey, I'd like to train you to fight this guy. You can beat him," and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's not why I did that. I was just doing a friendly sparring session, and it just got out of hand, So after they told me that, it kind of like that too kind of put a spark in me, because I was like, okay, maybe I should give this a try. Maybe I should pursue it a little bit. So that's when I asked my instructor, like, "Hey, do you know anybody that could teach me jiu-jitsu?" And he's like, "As a matter of fact, my cousin is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he can help you out. And he also fights in MMA." And I was like, "Oh, cool, even better." I go, because I would rather train with somebody that knows what it's like to be in the cage, or what it's like to be in the ring. it's different when you're just training with somebody doing jiu-jitsu. They don't know, they haven't been in the cage, they don't know what it's like to be punched, you know.
It's theory.
So
it's theory.
You know, yeah. To me, I just feel like it's better, you know, to train with somebody that knows where he's been. So whenever he did that, I was like, yeah, let me start training with him. So I start training with him. 2 months later, I have my first fight, you know, which is really weird. Like, so in reality, I trained for like a year and 3 months maybe before my first fight.
Yeah, if you get an armbar and a Kimura, I mean, there's a little bit of experience needed, you know, in the gym in order to pull those off in your first 2 fights, for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was myself in general just kept busting my ass. I mean, I would literally have to pick up my instructor, like drag him out of bed, like, hey, get your ass up, let's go to the gym. And he'd be like, oh man, all right, get up, you know. And that's Bella, by the way. I did that for years, you know. I literally would have to force them to take me to the gym and, you know, train me, show me this stuff, you know. And I did that for a couple months. And, you know, after a while, you know, he started kind of getting on the ball. He started getting more students. I mean, I started getting more practice. So it helped out, you know, it really helped out.
And you're really only sticking to the South Texas Fighting Championship. You're not going away from there. Are other promotions contacting you at this point?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, nobody really knew of me or heard of me, so nobody was really contacting me. The only other promotion that I did, which is my following fight, and I don't want to get ahead of you, is
I got Cold Knuckles. Do you have something in between them?
And that fight was for the same promotion technically, but was held in Odessa, Texas.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it was like, did they have a different promoter doing it?
Yeah, it was under a different name, correct?
Okay.
And they used the promoter's license in order to, or my promoter's license to throw the event.
That's cool. That's cool. So did you? I mean, you're listed as a knockout. Is that another submission victory, or did you actually get?
No, that was a verbal knockout. Because yeah, he literally said stop. that was my. I have to say that's my favorite fight. You know, when you make a guy yell stop, you know, in the middle of you elbowing the crap out of him, that's a great feeling. I mean, there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah. So have you like run into like Adam Barnungara or any of those kind of like staples from that area? Did you ever train with them?
No. I didn't train with any of those guys. The like I said, my only trainers or my only instructors were the two that I named, and I stayed pretty loyal to them. I didn't move around too much, didn't cross train too much. I did every once in a while, like with buddies of mine that would invite me over and stuff like that. I'd go and cross train, but for the most part, I kind of stuck to myself. I didn't want to give out too much of myself that people would kind of be ready for it, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of just kept myself in other ways.
Yeah. Another guy from, Southern Texas that I don't think it's enough credit is Tony Aponte. He as well.
Yeah. He's actually a good as well.
Yeah. Real good jiu-jitsu instructor. Absolutely.
Give me a second, guys. I heard a noise, and I'm actually here by myself. So let me see who's here real quick.
So Miguel, this might be our first break-in. This is where we're going to get the hits. This is what's going to get us, Miguel. Hopefully the action comes back into our purview.
See if you can drag the perpetrator in this way.
Yeah, come on, man.
That one now?
See if you can drag him into the room. Get one more W.
No, sorry about one of my students. We actually had to cancel class today because we had extreme cold weather, which is like 40 degrees, which is not cold actually. But unfortunately, our Valley people don't know how to drive in the cold weather.
Dude, that's crazy. 40 degrees here in Chicago. That's fantastic.
Yeah, people are out in shorts.
Yeah, no. Please here, everybody's in sweaters.
One of the things that not to jump right back in, but one of the things that's nice about looking at your career is you did do some things right. Like, you stayed with the organization, you fought every few months and stuff like that. You avoided like that, like, I fought every weekend and like that, which can be a drag. How did you avoid that? Because like Mexico's right there and there's so many fights, or were you just not paying attention to it?
There's a real quick answer to that, and just say no. Just like any other thing, you pick it, you pick what's right for you. And that's what I told all my students, that pick the right fights for you. Don't just take any fight that is thrown your way. Sometimes that works out, sometimes that works out great, but sometimes that's not really the best move. Sometimes it's geared to mess you up. And if you're trying to make something out of yourself or to do something with this career, we don't get paid much. So your record is the only thing you can really protect,
Credit.
Yeah,
you had also mentioned earlier that you were kind of, working on your immigration status. Was that another reason that you were hesitant to travel to Mexico?
No. By that time, I was already a naturalized citizen by that time. The only reason I didn't go to Mexico as often, one, the drug war.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty crazy at that border, man. We're especially where you're at, like Ciudad Juarez as well, obviously.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, from my understanding, one of my cousins was deeply involved with one of the cartels. He got involved with them a little too deep. They killed one of my cousins. They're out to get anybody from the family, so I stay away from Mexico as much as possible. Unfortunately, I love Mexico. If I go to Mexico City, areas where it's not border, I'll go. But areas where border towns, I stay away from. I don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah, I spent 3 years in the country of Mexico, and the alarming thing is on those border towns, you get a lot of like Americans there going, man, everything got stolen. Please just give me a little money so I can go home. And they're actually wanted in the United States, and that's kind of their scam. And then you get like some of the Mexicans that were up here on the run from the law, and they just kind of base themselves on, being that little translator in Mexico. Like those border towns, man, it's like, you see a beautiful woman, please, I just need to get home. I couldn't get over the border, but that could be her scam. Like it's the level of depravity in prostitution, child trafficking,
everything.
It's levels that I think people, the people of the United States, I don't think that they can grasp because they just don't have the ability to see it.
If you don't see it firsthand, you'll never understand exactly what actually is going on. I mean, you're talking about when you go to a regular candy store and they're selling more than just candy in the store,
unless it's pointed out to you, you don't see it. No, you're correct. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, you won't see it if you don't go in there with somebody that's already doing it or purchasing something from there. You'll never know that's going on. You'll think regular little store or whatever that's just selling chips and candy, but you go in there and they come out happy as hell. Wonder why,
Yeah.
So around this time, though, there were some Mexican fighters that were starting to get into the international scene. You had guys like, I'm going to forget his last name, but his daughter, I think, or the girl is in the UFC now. His name is Lobo. And then there's Henry Briones.
Uh-huh.
And those guys, like, were you watching? Well, Velasquez, I think, is a different discussion. But were you watching, like, Briones? I know he fought for me. The other kid, I'll remember his name. I'll look it up here. But like, were you starting to watch the rise of Mexican fighters and technique there, or was it?
I was actually. There was a lot of interest in myself, to keep track with these Mexican guys that were doing real good. A lot of these guys, they were really like Eric Perez. I rooted for Eric no matter what. Whether I like this instructor or not, that's beside the point. Eric was Mexican, and I was gonna root for my Mexican, And that's just how it was, man. I mean, I kept up with, all these guys, Brian Ortega, that's another one that's done really, really good things. I mean, took a pretty bad beating in his last fight, but I mean, other than that, I mean, the guy's a beast, the guy's an animal. All these guys right now, they're doing really, really good. That kind of puts me in a sense that maybe it was a good time that I got out when I did.
What about Cain Velasquez? Did you accept him as a Mexican, or was he kind of like
no,
Ireland?
No,
looking at people like us,
No, he can erase that brown pride off his chest. He's got none.
Really? Like, let me ask you, as a Mexican watching him on TV, did they try to make him speak Spanish in the UFC and stuff? Did it hold up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I spoke Spanish, and they interviewed me in English and in Spanish. But the thing that bothered me about Cain was his attitude. When the cameras are rolling in front of him, that guy's the sweetest guy in the world. He'll probably hand you some money, but the cameras are off and nobody's around and he's doing other stuff. He's a total douche. Not only that.
Did you socialize with him?
He came down to the Valley, dude. He came down to the Valley. Our show brought him down to the Valley, hosted him here. They paid for this guy to come down. He was the UFC champion at the time. All the Valley guys here in the Valley were going crazy because, including myself, because I was like, man, this guy's gonna come down badass. Mexican champion. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
We're literally in what the tip of Texas. We're right next to Mexico. We're pretty much Mexico. The majority of the people here are Mexican, and when you're having to pay this guy or pay him to give him a drink in order to freaking take a freaking picture with him, it bothers me, bro. It really bothers me because then you see other people like Vanderlei.
Was he charging for pictures?
Huh?
Was he charging for pictures?
No, he was shooing people away.
Oh.
Yeah, his bodyguards were like, no, you can't come near him.
Bodyguards.
Yeah.
Cain Velasquez need a bodyguard,
Mike, that was my question. That was my freaking question, bro. And the only reason I found this out is because one of my buddies, which was one of my sponsors at the time, I'm not going to name though, but one of my buddies did tell me that he had to pay him, or he had to pay for his drinks in order for him to have a conversation with him and start hanging out and take pictures with the guy. Like, that's when the guy kind of got loose. And it's like, you had to go there to do that. I mean, you're in a Mexican town. I mean, if anything, embrace that shit. You're not gonna get any other love or more love than there or here. I'm sorry, that's the truth. That's for my feelings, And I felt that he just dissed us as Mexicans. I felt like that was messed up. So when I found this out, I got a real bad beef with him because of that. And I felt that it was very, very shameful and on his part. So I went on record, and I think I did another interview as well. And I said that, he should take that shit off his chest because it doesn't represent what he is. That if he was brown pride, he would have done exactly what I said he should have done. Take pictures with everybody. Shoot. Vanderlei Silva, which I think is a legend. This guy was on freaking crutches straight out of freaking the surgery, out of ACL surgery, walking around on crutches, and he would stop for everybody that freaking asked for a picture.
Wow.
You see the difference in people here. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
You got to remember, he's also going to an event where he's being paid to be at, so he kind of knows you're there to shake hands. It's not like you're at the supermarket with your family or,
exactly,
at a sporting event, you're trying to enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Cain was always kind of quiet, but yeah, I agree with you. I think he played it wrong. I think if you're going to do that, go embrace it, have fun. I agree with you.
If you're going to do that, embrace it and trust it.
And I think the Mexicans were open. Here's a UFC heavyweight champion. Why, if he had been cool, he would have owned the town, I think. I think you're right. I don't think you're wrong.
He would have had so much things just given to him if he would have just been cool. You know, cool.
Yeah.
Be cool, bro. You know, that's what I tell everybody. You don't have to be a douche to get what you want. You can be a cool guy. You don't have to be Conor McGregor to get what you want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And just to wrap up from before, Henry Briones had done a reality show in Costa Rica that I worked with, and so did Alexa Grasso's trainer. Alexa Grasso's now in the UFC.
Yes.
Her trainer, I think it's her uncle, but he was part of that. His nickname is Lobo. I'm not going to remember his first name, but last name Grasso. Hell of good fighters, and they were showing Mexican level was definitely coming up back then. So, Mike, go ahead, all you again.
Yeah. So up here we've got the original Mexican champion, Miguel Torres. And so when I remember when Cain Velasquez was coming, I didn't even I also speak fluent Spanish. Obviously, Miguel, he's in Costa Rica right now. I remember I look at Miguel. Miguel goes, "Don't even ask me. He ain't Mexican. He ain't Mexican. He don't listen to John Sebastian. He don't listen. He started listening to all like these little banda guys. He don't listen to them people, man. You know."
It's the truth,
man. Are you old enough to remember do you remember when the UFC, the real first Mexican guy that they had that was kind of flirting with the idea was Tito?
Yeah.
Like Tito,
he's
like faker.
I you know what's funny? I agree with you. Lido, I totally agree with you there because I said that so many times. Like Tito comes out with the Mexican flags like draped over his shoulders, but
he's also got the American flag on the other side. Like he at least admitted he was half American.
Yeah, but you're at least he's at least coming out and saying I'm half American. You know, which is cool. Yeah. You know, I'm half American, half Mexican. That's cool. But don't play it off like you're full on Mexican, because then the full Mexicans will blast you for that. They will get on your ass for that.
Well, just so people at home can kind of understand what we're talking about. Obviously, I'm a white dude, you know? I mean, it's like, it's probably a conversation I probably should subtract myself from, but I lived in Mexico City for a little under a year, and they've got like a metro train station. And one of the stops is Tepito, which is in essence where some of the greatest fighters ever to come from that country. It's an incredibly impoverished area of Mexico City, but Tepito, this train stop is boxing gloves. You know, they get the little symbols where you kind of get off and you know where to get off. Tepito is boxing gloves, and people say, man, you get off here and you hit some of these markets, they're going to rob you, bro. They're going to take your shoes, take your shirt. You know, you're going to be walking out of Tepito naked. Get off at the next stop.
You know what's funny? It's funny you said that because when I was training in Mexico City, when I went out there to get ready for my fight with Johnny Case, I went out there to Mexico City and I was running in the middle of the night. Oh my
God, that air quality. Oh
yeah. Trust me. It felt like my lungs were on fire all the time. You know, it really sucked. So anyways, and I went out there 3 weeks prior to the fight because I knew I was going to need, you know, the acclimation, you know.
Yeah.
I was going to need to acclimate to the air up there. So I went 3 weeks ahead of time. So I pretty much spent a month out there. And when I get there, my first thing to do is to train I was going to go say hi to Mr. Nacho Bedestein. And I was going to go and introduce myself to him because I was going to go and cross-train with him so he could help me out with my boxing. Well, I literally just got off the plane. I get off and go and shake this man's hand. And he's like, oh, you ready? I was like, ready for what? He's like, you got your clothes with you? And I was like, yeah, my bags. I go, but I got to check in. He goes, let him go and check in. And you start training. He sent my driver to go check in for me. and I had to get dressed. And dude, that first 45 minutes of training with him was hell because I was coming off the plane, you know.
You're higher elevation.
Terrible elevation I'm ever used to ever in my life. And he's busting my ass, dude. Like, and it's a regular routine for them, you know. It's like they're doing like a regular little routine that they do every day. And I'm like,
yeah, but he knows you're coming in under those types of circumstances.
Yeah.
And he wants to get you right away. Just
He wanted to get like going like that. Like
he wants to get you to suffer.
Bro, I couldn't breathe, bro. I felt like I was having to take breaks every so often. I was like, dude, what the heck is wrong with me? I thought I was in better shape than this. But it was just the air, you know. And then I started running in the middle of the night because I wanted to get acclimated a little bit better, you know. And then I told him, oh yeah, I'm running in the middle of the night. He's like, don't do that. He's like, none of my guys run in the middle of the night. Because you want to get killed or you want to get robbed? What are you doing? I was like, I ain't thinking it was gonna rob a Mexican running right up the street, you know. That didn't occur to me, you know. It didn't click, you know, like, oh, they're gonna rob this Mexican running. It didn't click to me, you know. So I had to start that.
Mexico City is one of the greatest places in the entire world, Matt.
It really is.
And I know this is like a fight podcast. Obviously, we're going through your career, but I had, like, everyone kept telling me, like, I was reading reviews about La Merced, which is like this little mercado. And the description I kept reading in like the early 2000s is only places of civil war are more dangerous than La Merced. So I'm just here like, man, it's like 8 a.m. You know, the drug addicts probably aren't up yet. The gangbangers might not be sleeping. So I just had to put my hat on, you know, threw a hoodie up, and was kind of like walking really fast, not stopping at anything. I saw 2 fist fights and a stabbing. Like, over like, maybe like a 25-minute walk. And I'm like, holy shit. You know, not say hi to anybody, just keep my mouth shut and head down. Mexico's a different world, man. I love that country.
It really is a different world. Beautiful as hell, but it can be beautiful and it can be deadly. But I mean, when it's calm and beautiful, I mean, it's one of the most awesomest places you can visit. You know, it's gorgeous out there. You know, from the beaches to the pyramids. You know, I don't know if you've ever got time to see the pyramids.
Come on, bro. Of course,
those things are beautiful, man. I mean, they're overwhelming. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I got one more legit Mexican, not legit Mexican question for you.
We should keep up with like a little game show. Is he a real Mexican?
Hey, because you slipped into boxing, right? So I want to ask you about Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz is my favorite fucking boxer right now.
Right,
I love that guy. I love that guy. I love that guy. And honestly, he'd still be champ. He'd still be champ right now if Anthony Joshua would have actually fought him. He did not fight him. He ran away from him, kept him out of it, kept him away with his jab, and that's all he did. So in my eyes, if me being a fighter, if somebody knocks me out or drops me the way or embarrasses me the way Andy did, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna put you on your ass. And that's not what Joshua did. And to me, that just shows his colors of what kind of champion he is. And you're a paper champion, buddy. You know, you suck. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. So Frank, the greatest part of the rematch where Andy lost, he said, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have hired the taco truck driver to be my personal chef. That's I'm telling you, he does a lot of stupid shit, and that was some of the stupidest shit.
But I mean, you can't take away Andy's power, Andy's IQ with tacos, bro. You can feed that motherfucker. you can feed that motherfucker anything, and that guy's IQ is there, bro. I mean, he's just there.
And hands speed too.
He's not a super athlete, but he's been around for a long time because like he was on top ranks, like, you know, ladder coming up, and they took care of him for a while, and then there was no love and they let him go. And he stuck because I think they thought that he didn't love boxing, but he stuck with it. Yeah. And he's a good boxer, like just technique wise. For a heavyweight, I enjoy watching him for sure. I'm glad you like him.
Yeah, I think he's got one of the best hands in boxing, period. As far as like, division goes. The heavyweight,
Frank, for sure. So we started, and I gotta wrap up with Andy Ruiz, and I gotta include one more thing. All right. So in essence, Frank, we're kind of going through your record, and you're talking to us about discipline. It's super important. Like You know, the higher
discipline.
levels you perform, the more disciplined you got to be. And sometimes it means staying away from certain activities or people that might not be good influence.
Yeah.
Andy Ruiz is all decked out like a Latin king. Like he is gang banging when he's fighting. Just look at the colors, look at it. I mean, his tattoos, his logo.
It's the Mexican culture, bro. I mean, you can't escape it. You can't escape it regardless of where you at. You just can't escape that culture that you don't even have to be banging, bro. That's the thing with this, that you don't even have
He's
to
out there
be
gang banging.
Yeah, you don't have to be a banger. You just have to act the part or be the part, you know, or
wear the uniform.
People that are bangers, you know, and you're a banger, you know, it's weird. But I mean,
he's real. He's the real deal.
He's the real deal. Yeah. As far as like Mexicans go, like that's one motherfucker that does not need to take that brown pride off of him. You know, make that shit bigger and shit, you know?
Right. So you said we started your fights at like, you know, heavyweight, worked your way down to 205 with Shaun Wagner, you know, kept it up. On August 15th, 2009, you fight Dynamite Larry Hopkins, and you went down another weight class.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I actually had fought another fight right before that, which was Christopher Flores.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fought Christopher Flores right before that, and that was actually my debut at 85.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, that was my debut at 85. And after that, I think I'd already had 5 fights accumulated. So the promotion approached me and asked me if I wanted a title shot. And I was like, I really don't want one. You know, like there wasn't any champions at the time, so I didn't feel like the title was relevant. Okay. You know?
Wait here, let me interject. This is an organization this is going on their 8th fight. So they took their time in order to belt their champions. Like, we're going to get into the promoters over there because they did a phenomenal job. They really waited 8 fights before they started belting people. Southern Texas Fighting Championship, I don't think exists anymore. But what I could see watching them, bro, I was very impressed with them as a promotion. Yeah,
they really did some stuff that just they outdid themselves at the time. You know, they really did. You know, they were you were asking about the venues they were put on. I mean, the venues that they were renting, I mean, the venues itself, I think were costing them like 13, 14 grand for 3-4 hours. You know,
that's actually a lot.
Yeah. So they're pulling in all that much money, and then plus production. You know, they bought their own cage. You know, they would rent the big screen TV so people could see inside. You know, and they would put the TVs right on top of the cage. You know, so you're not gonna miss anything. You know, you're literally looking at the fight right there in front of you, like if you're looking at the cage. You know, so they did a really, really good job as far as like the production and showing the fans, or giving the fans what they wanted and what they paid for. You know.
What were you doing in terms of like, were they paying you $300, $500, or were you making money off your tickets?
When I first got started, I actually was one of the guys that they took care of pretty well, I want to say, you know, as far as like pay goes. When I started, they paid me I believe my first fight was 4-4.
Okay.
And then
400?
Yeah, 400 and 400, which is a lot more than when anybody else was getting.
Dude, that's a lot now.
Yeah, people were getting like 2 and 2 at the time, or 3 and 3. You know, that was like horrible. But yeah, they gave me 4 and 4, and then after that, they gave me believe 6 and 6, and then 7 and 7, and then 1,000 and 1,000. You know,
so
like,
you got 1,000 for this one. They kept going up. Okay.
Yeah, by 1,000.
That's pretty cool, because usually the reason I thought about it was because you said that they were offering you a belt, and usually that comes along with, well, we don't got a raise for you, but we can get you a belt. You know what I mean? And that's so
yeah. That's kind of what it was. I'm like, we can't give you more money, but we can give you this shiny little thing over here. Like, I still got it in the back, by the way.
There it is.
Yeah,
that's cool. More fighters being interviewed need to bring props, by the way.
Absolutely.
bring their stuff, please.
What was that one more time?
I was just telling the other guys that we interview, the fighters, that they got to do what you just did, which is bring their belts and props and stuff to show. I love that. I love it. I'm a geek.
Yeah, we had Mark Schultz with this gold medal. So Larry Hopkins.
You're gonna appreciate that over there. Can you see
that? Darth Vader?
Yeah, it's Darth Vader. I'm a big Star Wars fan, bro. My kids are actually named after Star Wars characters. I got Luke, Leia, and Rey.
Okay, that's cool.
That's fantastic. So let's go to this 185-pound fight with Larry Hopkins. Were your pre-fight nerves a little bit different for this one?
Very. I had just cut my foot, like a big gash, like about, I don't know, like yay big on my foot. And I waited too long to go get stitches. And that was I think the day prior to the event. And I was rolling with one of my friends, just trying to stay active. I was rolling with one of my guys. And I threw my leg over, and a light socket was sticking out. And I caught the edge of the light socket, and it slit the shit out of me, dude, right on my leg, right on my foot. So when I go into the fight, I'm already thinking like, fuck, I'm fucked. I can't kick this guy. I can't punch. I can't do nothing on my foot. Like, what am I going to do? So I don't know how it happened, actually, that we ended up in a scuffle, that I ended up falling, and I went for a knee bar. Sunk at the knee bar, and I didn't let it go. I was like, nah, you're not getting out of this, bro. Like, this is coming with me.
Yeah. Well, what belt are you at this point?
At this point, I'm still a white belt.
Really? You're nailing these kind of high-end submissions, though.
A lot of studying, bro, when it comes to like watching fights. I mean, I was like dedicated when I would watch fights, as far as like the old Pride fights. I mean, watching, Shogun Hua, freaking Pele, all the old school guys, I mean, that's what I did. I sat down on the screen and just would stop, rewind. How the hell did he do that? Kind of stop, rewind. And, we would do that a lot. Me and my buddy Abram, which is my longtime training partner. I mean, we did that for years, where we would just like analyze fights and see what they would do wrong and whatnot. And I think it really helped me as far as like learning how to maneuver my body and where to put my body and stuff like that.
And when you're doing jiu-jitsu at this point too, are you doing the whole white belt with the gi, rolling and practicing with the gi, or are you doing more, like a MMA type jiu-jitsu?
No, Bella started me off with the gi, unfortunately. So I mean, I trained with the gi. I was training with the gi. So I had my gi technique or my gi, practice down. But the no gi was something that I really, really did a lot of. Whether it be on my off time or even during my training. I emphasized on training that a lot, especially because I was going to be punching. So I wanted to emphasize my punching and my rolling at the same time. So I would do that a lot. And like I said, studying these moves, that we would practice them and try to get them off and try to pull them off on each other. And, and sometimes you'd get them off, sometimes you wouldn't. And, I mean, it was that type of deal. I mean,
Hopkins was out of Silverback Fight Club.
Yes.
Was there a rivalry between your gyms?
Huh?
Was there a rivalry between your gyms?
No. Silverback. You're talking about Roger Nevadas?
Yeah.
No. Roger. Me and Roger had an altercation when I fought his buddy, and that was like, I think, 2 fights after that, or a fight after that. I can't remember.
Will Florentino?
No, after that.
Okay, so that's Andrew Garza. Okay, yeah. No, I know there was some stuff with Andrew.
Way after that, actually. Then, if I fight Andrew Garza, it's Cory Bellino that I had the.
Well, here, wait, let's kind of walk this up. So at 85, and we're going to get to that, so I apologize. So Larry Hopkins, you cut down, you get the 185-pound title belt.
Yeah.
Your next fight against Will Florentino, which is like, so you're going August 15th to September 3rd. you get down to 170.
Sort of. It's like 179, something like that. Because I think we still fought at 85 at that fight.
Okay, was that I'm looking at the weights and it listed it at 170. Okay.
No, that's actually incorrect. It was an 85 fight. I defended my title against Florentino.
Well, Florentino's 4-1 and
at the time, and he was coming off a kind of controversial loss, in my opinion, to I forget what that kid's name was, but he was an up and comer that was just tearing up the scene, and I think he was a wrestler at the time too. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I actually had told the promoter to look at that kid because I wanted to fight him, and then the promoter surprises me with Will. I'm like, dude, I was talking about the shorter guy, not the freaking 6-foot giant. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, bro, what are you doing to me, bro?
So you take a year off after that fight. What's the reason for the layoff?
My hand, bro. I hurt my hand, and because I was actually supposed to fight Cory Bellino sooner.
Okay.
I was actually supposed to fight him that very next fight. I didn't fight Cory Bellino because I hurt my hand, and it was hurt so much that those things they have like at Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever, they pull down, whatever, the hit machines or whatever. So, I mean, those balls are relatively soft, I've taken a punch at it and it's shedding shockwaves all the way through my thing. So I'm like, when that happened, that's when I made the conscious choice to kind of just wait it out, let my hand heal, let my skills get better,
So you were still in the gym?
Oh yeah, I was still in the gym.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, sometimes life happens, and that wasn't the case. So right now, you're also working at this point. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm working a lot. So I was cleaning pools at the time. So I was cleaning pools from I don't know, 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning till like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then get out of work and then go to train, and wouldn't leave the gym till like about 10 at night, so that was my regular routine, for a long time.
Wow. So Arsenal Jiu-Jitsu has a guy by the name of Andrew Garza who's 4-0. Yeah. And you end up fighting him August 12th, 2011.
At 205.
What weight?
205.
Oh my God, you went up. Okay. So in essence, there's a little bit of heat between you two. Like there seems to be a little bit of jealousy in the South Texas scene in regarding yourself.
They were promoting him as like some sort of like god, and I was like, bro, he hasn't done anything. Like, and they were even saying that he was good enough to beat me. Like they were like throwing those exact words out there, and that kind of got under my skin. Really, it really bothered me, So I consciously gained weight, bro. Like I did it on purpose. Like, and I would do that a lot actually. I'm a big heavyset guy. I'm not a lean guy by any means whatsoever. So when I'm like fighting 205 or even 185, I mean, I blow up to like 230, 240, give or take, and then drop all that weight and then fight again, but, I would still keep training. Like my cardio was always there. It was just, I would always gain weight. My weight would always go up. And whenever I heard this stuff about Andrew going around, I got upset. It kind of bothered me a bit. And I said, you know what? I'll take that fight. I offered my promoter. I was like, hey, you know what? You guys want to have that guy fight? Nobody wants to fight him. I'll fight him. They're like, oh, well, you're going to jump weight up, but you're going to go up and weight again? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, what about the belt? I go, I'll come back down. Don't worry about it. So that's basically what I did. I fought him, and then I went on and fought Cory.
Well, here let's talk about Garza. How did you stop him?
Oh, I stopped him in the third round. I think it was the beginning of the third round or the middle of the third round, something like that. I hit him with the hook straight, and then I skipped, and then I threw a hook straight to the other side and connected all 4 punches, and he went down.
So the pre-fight hype between you two, I think he even was making a T-shirt to come out in.
Yeah, he made said he was gonna make a T-shirt that Jesus doesn't tap, but Frank will. And I was like, wow. I was like, dude, like the confidence in you, you know, like, wow, you know. So like I said, I took this stuff very, very personal, and I go to find out later, you know, because me and Andrew, after a while, you know, we become friends. You know, I'm not a total douchebag. You know, I actually talk to most of my opponents. I talk to. So Andrew tells me one day, hey man, you know it's crazy. You know, you got real mad about that T-shirt thing, and he goes, I was actually talking about Jason David Frank.
Oh, so it wasn't even about you.
It wasn't even about me. He wanted to push himself to fight Jason David Frank, because Jason David Frank at the time was weighing like 215 pounds or something like that. He was just a jacked up steroid tool, and I mean, he wanted to make a name for himself in MMA, right? So all these other guys wanted to fight him too, you know. So you know, he was wanting to promote himself for that. I took it totally wrong, and I ended up beating his ass for it, which I felt totally bad about.
So right around that time, it's just like there's a lot of jealousy. Even like Conan Cano was calling you out, like aggressively pursuing you.
Yeah, Conan, man. I saw him first fight here in the STFC, and we all became like real good friends. So whenever they told me that he wanted to fight me, I laughed, because I was like, bro, he couldn't handle Joseph Daley. You know, I go, Joseph Daley didn't want any piece of me. I was like, I challenged Joseph Daley, right? As soon as Joseph Daley got off the mat with my one of my buddies, he actually beat my buddy by choke, and I jumped in like maybe 2 seconds later. And I was like, hey man, let's do it. And he kind of like backed off all scared, like, no, I don't want this and this and this and that. And then he goes off and fights Kano and beats Kano for the title. And I'm like, bro, if Kano couldn't get past Daley, I was like, I don't want anything to do with Kano. Like Kano's not even worth my time. Not to be mean, you know. He just do it right. To me. It was worth my time. You know, I'm gonna take that fight. I'm gonna beat up a guy that I actually like. Yeah, let's not do that. You know, like that's not me. You know, I'm not in it. Like, yeah, it's a business, and yeah, we're all fighters, but I have code. I have a code. You know, even if, you know, we're opponents, unless it's big money, then I'm fighting. But if it's not big money and it doesn't make sense to me, for fucking $1,000, I'm not gonna fight a good friend or a close friend. I'm not gonna do it. You know, I'll fight you for fucking 10 grand. Fuck yeah, I'll beat your ass into, you know, the next Tuesday. But
it is what it is. Yeah,
exactly. But when it's little bit of cash, nah, it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it.
So you had mentioned him, Cory Bellino. At this point, Cory Bellino, your fight comes together July 13th, 2012. He's actually 6-1 and a pretty hot prospect.
Yeah.
It's probably your toughest fight, in my opinion, up until this point.
He was tearing things up, bro. He was really doing really good. And I was a little concerned. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little concerned about him, because everybody that I spoke to and trained with was hyping this guy up very, very, very much. You know, one of my training partners at the time was actually Romy Rodriguez, who is at the time was a Paragon black belt, and Cory was a Paragon affiliate from Corpus Christi. So they were basically telling me that I couldn't train with Paragon because I was gonna know their secrets, which I thought was stupid. I thought was stupid because we're here in the Valley and they're over there in Corpus, you know, so that's not like, no way, but whatever. So I stopped going to Paragon because of that. And like I said, I mean, everybody kept hyping him up from Romy, and Romy rolled with me personally. And he was telling me like, oh man, this guy's real good on the ground, man. He's real slick and this and that. Like they were really hyping him up. So I was worried about it when it came time to, you know, fight him. I was really worried, you know. And then not to mention, I got hurt like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the fight. I get hurt. I go for a takedown and I land on my shoulder. And when I land, my neck does this. And I guess I pitched this way. And I got a stinger all over on this side. So my whole arm went numb and whatnot. And yeah, man, it kind of fucked. It was messing with my brain a little bit. I was kind of like having second thoughts about the fight. I was even thinking about pulling out at the time too. And I said, you know what? I can't pull out anymore. I gotta make this fight happen. You know, I gotta find a way to do it, you know? So I almost missed weight in that fight. I think I was off by like 3 pounds or 2 pounds. And then I hit the sauna, barely made it back to the weigh-ins. I had to weigh in like 2 or 3 hours later because this commission was being jerks with me. They made me pay for making them wait. And then yeah, we get to the event, and we start fighting, and I'm like really in shock because I feel some of his hits and I'm like, are you freaking serious? Like, is this what everybody was telling me what I was supposed to be scared of? Like, nah, that's not happening. You know, I you can see it in my demeanor. Like my face changes from kind of like being a little cautious to, like, oh, you're so fucked. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to have to do this to you, you know? And I had a previous conversation with his instructor. One of his instructors' name is Aurelio. I can't remember his name. His name is Aurelio. But anyways, I told his instructor, because his instructor had said that I had pulled out of the fight with him prior because I was scared of him. And I said, I'm not scared of him. My hand is hurt, period. You know, I can't fight if my hand is hurt, you know? And he kept saying that I was scared of him. So I told him, look, the day I fight your guy and I knock him the fuck out, I'm going to look right over you and I'm going to tell you it's your fucking fault. So when I go into the fight, knock him out. I knocked him out with like, I think I hit him with like 7 elbows.
Dude, it's nasty. It's nasty. Yeah. And you know, let me put this in its proper context. Cory Bellino is a tough dude.
He really is.
So whether you knocked him out or not, I mean, that's part of the game. I mean, it's something you accept. Cory Bellino is actually a legit fighter.
He really is. You know, he really is. I mean, like I said, I was just expecting so much more because of what they had told me, you know, like, yeah, they have built him up as, you know, but Cory Bellino in his own right, I mean, he's a real respected fighter, man. I mean, for sure. I was watching him, you know, as he was building himself, you know, he was knocking out people there in my events, you know, at the STFC, he was knocking people out with head kicks and stuff, you know, so, I mean, it's not like the guy was a chump, you know, so I knew what I was going to get myself into, but I did tell his coach that, you know, when I did knock him out, that I was going to point right at him and I was going to tell him it was his fault. And so whenever I did knock him out, I looked right over at Aurelio and I pointed right at him. And after I did that, I did this like ceremonial stomp that I always do. I do it right before a fight and right after a fight. I don't mean any disrespect by it. It's just something I do. Roger starts going crazy and starts saying that I'm disrespecting him because this guy's on the floor and I'm celebrating all this other shit on the ground. I was like, dude, like in my head, I'm thinking, bro, if that was me knocked out on the ground, you wouldn't have no problem with your buddy fucking jumping around and doing all this sort of crazy stuff, you know? You wouldn't have had a problem with it. But the fact of the matter is that you saw your buddy get knocked out and you're upset about it. That's bottom line. You know, and I told him that.
Which it's understandable. It's
you know,
understandable.
Yeah, I told him that. I got directly in his face and I told him that you want to turn this about me and you. It's not about me and you, bro. I go, this just happened. You know, it fucking happened. You know, I didn't fucking plan to knock him out. Like, you don't go into, and I tell everybody, you don't go into a fight thinking, I'm gonna knock this guy out. I'm gonna knock him out with this punch or this kick. No, it just happens. You know, shit happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's Bellino was tough. And you know, the thing that at this point, like, you're kind of coming on a lot of people's radars, and I had not seen you fight up until this point, you know, certainly not live, obviously. But I saw here, August 12th, Andrew Garza, you're up at 205. Okay. February 22nd, 2013, you know, you go down 170 pounds. Like, that's like right there. It's like when I had heard that you had made it 170, there was like I think Texas MMA or TXMMA.com. So there's kind of like a big Texas message board going on at this point. And that South Texas scene, everyone would talk about it. You know, I'm from like Chicago. I'm just, you know, fight dork. And I'd be studying that message board and your name had come up. And when they had talked about this, you know, you going down to 170 pounds, I'm like, and this guy's legitimately like making the effort and putting the discipline in to try to fight in the UFC.
Yeah. After the Cory Bellino fight, I made it a point to get there. Like, I say, you know what?
Do you remember that message board?
I don't. I actually don't. Okay. A lot of people told me about it. I never actually got on it, but a lot of people did tell me about
it. It was cool because it really, you know, Texas is such a big state. And, you know, at this point, the Underground Forum was a very popular one for, you know, internationally. But Texas had its own little sub forum on a completely different website. And it was, the information that I could, you know, get from it was just incredible. Yeah, and they had talked about, you were talking about your discipline in regards to getting down in weight.
Yeah. No, like that was the toughest thing to do, is to actually make that weight cut. I mean, I busted my butt. I mean, I secluded myself. I lived in Houston for about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I was staying out there at Macaco's gym in Houston. I was staying
Miguel,
upstairs.
wait, hold up. Miguel, does the name Macaco ring a bell to you?
Sure, Patino, Jorge Patino.
You see, dude, Miguel's such a friggin' encyclopedia. He's got a couple fights against Pele.
Yeah, he's got a couple fights against Pele. He's actually Charles Oliveira's coach. So, I mean, the guy's legit. I mean, he's one of the best as far as coaches goes. I mean, he got me to where I needed to be. I mean, he pushed me, made me cry, you know, like those are the types of workouts that you hate to do, but at the same time, you know, you're getting the most out of them, you know?
Okay. So is this a new entry into your camp, Macaco?
That was a brand new entry into my camp, because at this point, Bella was already gone. I think he was already living in Houston or something like that. And I was actually training with Gracie Baja. So I was doing a lot of training with Gracie Baja, Dracolino, all these guys, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, so I was getting my jiu-jitsu way better as far as, like, you know, and I was also working for Gracie Baja McAllen here in Texas. So, I mean, it worked out perfect. I was teaching Muay Thai, and I was doing jiu-jitsu there at the same time. So it worked out great for me. And
Macaco is still there. Am I correct?
Huh?
Macaco is still in Texas.
No, Macaco's actually in Florida now. He's actually happily married in Florida. Yeah.
So I thought
he has. What?
Go ahead.
He had a gym here in the Valley, and I mean here in Texas and Houston, and he ended up shutting down, and he just moved out and moved away.
I thought Figueredo was working out there.
Excuse me?
Was Figueredo where was Figueredo working out at? Figueredo
would say judo.
Yeah, he wasn't there with us.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got a brain fart. Okay. Okay. So you're coming up February 22nd, 2013, and you've got a state placer for wrestling in Joseph Daley.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the reason why I took this fight kind of like a little bit serious. Like, okay, like if this kid's got one up on me, which is the wrestling, because I didn't do any high school wrestling at all. In my area, it wasn't offered. There was very little schools here in the area that were actually offering wrestling. So, and you know, at the time that it just wasn't around for us. So wrestling was, you know, something that was brand new to me. And I knew that I had to get my cardio up better. I had to get everything better, my striking, you know, my physique. I had to just be in ultimate shape in order to be able to fight this fight. And I wanted to also put out a really good, exciting fight. I didn't want to make it a short fight either. That was one thing that I forced myself to want to do. I didn't want to make it another one-rounder. I wanted to prove to people that I could go 5 rounds. You know, I wanted to prove to people that I could go the extra distance. I didn't have to just, you know, put people away in 1 or 2 rounds and that's it. No, that I could do that. You know, that I had the cardio to be able to compete at that next level. You know, so
which is super important. Super important.
Yeah, which is super important. So I mean, like I said, I made that conscious decision to go and train Macaco. I secluded myself with Macaco. I was living upstairs in the gym. You know, so when everybody would leave the gym, I'd stay out there in the darkness, you know, like a troll, and just live up there, you know, wake up in the morning, 8 a.m. I'd hear him yell at me to wake up, and or come down all groggy, you know, wiping my freaking, you know, dust off my freaking face, and you know, get ready to train again and do it all over again the next day. And I did that for, like I said, for like a whole 2 months. And I mean, he really put it on me. Like, as far as like, when the day would end, when everybody would leave, he would come over, pick me up, and then we'd go to Lifetime Fitness. And mind you, the class would probably end like around 10 o'clock, maybe 9. And he'd pick me up like around 11 o'clock, and we'd go to Lifetime Fitness. We wouldn't leave Lifetime Fitness till like 2 a.m.
Wow.
You know, and then
you were living that life, man.
Yeah, start, repeat all over again the next day. You know, that was basically my life, you know. And I tell people, like, you guys don't understand, like, especially some of my younger guys just think that, oh, well, let me just get in there and fight. You guys don't understand what it takes to actually fight, like actually bust your ass and do these certain things and seclude yourself away from the family, not let family, you know, get in your business as well. You know, like that's the main portion too, you know, because family gets involved. Even though family is a good thing to have, family gets in the way because something can happen, you know, an accident can happen with a kid. If you're around, you're going to have to attend to it. Or if, let's say, you know, a death in the family happens, guess what? You're going to have to go to the funeral, you know, like things like that take time out of your training. And it seems like it's not important to everybody, but it really is to a fighter. Every little second counts, I believe. You know, if you're not putting that extra effort in the gym, your opponent is, you know. That's how
it'll haunt you too, man. It'll haunt you and also make you overtrain. Yeah, you gotta be real careful with that. Yeah,
it really will. It'll make you kind of like what people call gym rats. That's the reason they exist, you know, because I mean they have that drive that tells them like, hey man, somebody's working harder than me, you know. And a lot of the time, those gym rats are the ones that are successful, you know, that do something in this world, you know, that, you know, progress.
They're dedicated. Yeah,
exactly. Macaco's a guy that deserves props. It's interesting that you run into a guy like that because you're talking about an MMA lifer, really. You know what I mean?
Legend.
It's like,
legend.
I mean, I was at his fight in the UFC. He fought Pat Miletich, UFC 18. After that, I don't remember if it was when I went to IVC or the Abu Dhabi trials, but he hosted us at his school in Sao Paulo. And it was like a legit, like that was the first time I ever had that Brazilian fruit, acai. Like he bought it for us at that school and stuff. So this is the 90s, and he's still here with a UFC champion and guys he was putting there. So like an MMA lifer, really a guy that deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, you know, and he's got several guys too, like Thomas Almeida. They just signed this new kid. I forget his name. but he's also training with them too. I mean, he's got a lot of guys that are actually, legit, and they're good fighters. That they put in the work. Thomas Almeida, unfortunately, has been met with a lot of like messed up losses, but it's him himself. I think he gets started too late. He's one of those late starters. Like he doesn't start early in the fight. He gets going like second round, third round. That's when he gets going. But if you've already hurt him in the first round, it's kind of hard to get back at that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Macaco also unsung
Mike,
hero. He's an unsung hero. Like if it was just based on his fight career, you would look at it like how we're looking at you. You can go through it and get crazy stories and real interesting stuff, but never would be like Macaco would never be a household name, but it should be. And for him to kind of bring this new talent like along that he's doing, man, it makes me happy. Like as a mixed martial art historian.
Yeah. Because it's kind of like the ground roots of what is MMA. Like because
he's at HB, bro. Absolutely.
And this is something I think we're missing in the world today. Like we're missing that honor, that respect, that thing that makes you a fighter. It's not the money that makes you the fighter. It's the honor. It's the respect. It's the glory. It's like what we used to do when people were gladiators back then. Yeah, you were fighting for your life, but guess what? They were also fighting for glory. They were also fighting for for what it was, the pride. And I feel like we lost that totally.
Is there a more old school memory than Macaco mounted on Pele and Pele took the fight wearing an earring and he rips the earring off and throws it into the audience?
Yeah.
That's only in the 90s, bro.
No, bro.
So,
I mean, I've seen Macaco where I think he threw somebody, ended up like behind him, and like he like chin grabbed him and he's punching him like that. And I'm like, bro, that's some brutal shit. You're like, where do you come up with this stuff? Like it's really ridiculous. Like the guy's really done some crazy stuff. And like I said, who better to train me than a legend like Macaco, in my opinion, who better to train me, so whenever Wade gave me the opportunity, I mean, I jumped on it. He said two words to me: shoot box Macaco, and I said, I'm there.
Yeah.
So you were already with Wade. You already
I've
signed
known
with
Wade
Wade
205. He actually told me, it was real funny. I met him at a bar after one of my fights, and he tells me, I'm gonna get you into the UFC one of these days. Just watch. And I'm like, I kind of laughed at him when he said that. I'm like, you're crazy. You're not gonna get me anywhere. You're nuts. Like, get out of here with that stuff. And he did it. I was like, he did it.
Actually, now that I remember, I think I met Wade around the same time. He may have been with David. Was he with David already? Was that his crew, David De Los Santos?
David De Los Santos, yeah, that was my instructor. And so, I mean,
but him and Wade knew each other from back then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's where I know them from. Sorry, I'm making connections again.
No problem. No problem.
So let me kind of wrap up your title fight, 170-pound title fight, which, I mean, very impressive, against a very tough Joseph Daley. How big of a role did Danny Salinas play in preparing you for him?
Prepare me for the help?
Yeah, because I know you were working out over at Checkmate with Danny Salinas every once in a while around that time.
We were training out there a lot. I mean, me and Danny have been, that's another one of my long time training partners. I mean, me and him have been training even longer, than most people, we just don't, it just doesn't come out as much like that. But I mean, we're basically like this, we're not separated. We played football together. We went to high school together, it kind of was natural to kind of like train together as well, so we have that camaraderie from high school and stuff like that. So it just kind of rolled on to the MMA world, and we went with it, and it helped out because Danny has a real fancy kind of style that throws you off, and if you get used to stuff like that, it helps you kind of adapt to other people. And then he was very, very helpful as my career development was going. He was very essential to my career.
Yeah, Frank, a lot of times people you see him on the big stage and receiving all the glory, but there's a whole army of people that are putting, that foundation together in order that that person is prepared. And a lot of times they don't get, the proper respect for what it is that they've done. And that's kind of what this podcast is about. Like, as nerdy as we get with our questions and in depth into this South Texas scene, it's really important that it gets documented, especially the people that were in it.
Correct. No, yeah, like I said, I mean, these guys, you're right. They don't get any recognition because they're the ones in the background. They're the ones that don't get seen, But I mean, a lot of my friends, they were very vital to my training, to my work ethic. There were people that would call me, hey, let's go train. Hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do that. So we were constantly, pushing each other and working each other, to strive to get better, So yeah, man, I mean, as far as like my friends and the MMA friends that I have here in the Valley, I mean, everybody's helped to push me. Everybody, I don't think there's a single school here in the Valley that hasn't opened their doors to me to try to help, which was awesome, at the time.
So you take 9 months off after that, but here's the thing: South Texas Fighting Championships, the promoters, was it Palomera, Raul Ramos, Javi De Leon?
Mm-hmm.
Man, dude, they took care of you, bro.
Yeah, they did. They actually offered me another fight right after that one, and it was against Vanderlei's guys. And they were wanting to put me against one of Vanderlei's like killers. And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing that. I was like, you don't pay. I told Raul and Paul respectfully, you guys don't pay me enough for that. Like, you don't pay me enough for that. Like, if I'm going to fight them, I'll meet them in the UFC, but I'm not fighting them here. Like that's not going to happen. These guys, some of these guys were really, really good. I mean, I think one of their guys that they were trying to throw at me was a brown belt, and was their head MMA instructor at one fight team. I was like, thanks, but no thanks. So I'm like, no, like, so like, again, going back to taking care of me and choosing your right fights and choosing the right fights for you. I think that's where I took care of myself the best, is knowing when to say no, like not letting the ego get to you, not letting your pride get to you.
And that's a hard thing to do. A lot of people, like, Chris Lytle, who's, obviously our podcast partner, he could never do that. He readily admits he's got no self-control when it comes to saying no and fighting somebody, because he starts to go, wait a minute, that guy might think I can't beat him. And he's just like, I can't. He's like, I got to have to talk to somebody else, because it's just, yeah.
Yeah. And you see, with me, it's not like that. With me, I don't give two shits. If they think that I can't beat them, cool. We'll leave it at that.
So why did you take 9 months off?
Huh?
Why did you take 9 months off in between fights?
I believe at that time, I was going through a lot of problems at my home, as far as like divorce goes and whatnot. I was getting divorced, and I was just having a shitload of personal issues, and my head wasn't in it. So I mean, I was still training, but I just wasn't. I wasn't looking forward to fighting anybody anytime soon, and I was actually getting bored of not getting the call, because after I fought with Joseph Daley, I mean, I thought to myself, I showed the will to continue the whole 5 rounds, like I didn't give up, the whole 5 rounds. I fought in the whole 5 rounds. I out wrestled the quote unquote wrestler. And, I felt that I did, whatever was expected for me to get a contract, I thought I did, So I was really disappointed when I didn't get a call. I didn't get an email, nothing, like not even like, hey, we're interested, nothing, So I kind of got discouraged. Not gonna lie. I got discouraged. I was kind of like even doubting, like, should I continue this or not? And then And then Wade calls me with another news that we got a fight lined up. And I was like, okay, where? He's like, well, Legacy wants a 3-fight contract. And I was like, okay, now we're talking. Let's start moving on this.
So let me set the table on this. So Legacy is a bigger organization. Mick Maynard was the owner at the time, who is now one of the UFC matchmakers. He and Shaun Shelby matchmake the UFC. So when you're fighting for Legacy, you're literally getting in front of a guy that can make a phone call, and you'd have the contract, probably before you left the venue.
Exactly. And that's basically, technically, I think how it happened, because
November 15th, 2013, LFA 25, Lester, was it Bates?
Batres,
my fault.
Batres,
Okay.
yes. And Lester, man, that guy, another one that was like, also on a tear. And I mean, I think he was only 3-0 at the time though, but I mean, he was fighting like top guys, there, and he was taking care of them. Like, he was putting them out.
He was from Paradigm Training Center, and he had a very high ceiling, and he was being fast tracked. They wanted to fast track him, get him to the UFC at about 4 or 5 fights. His gym had a lot of faith in him. Yeah. Yeah.
They had a lot of faith in him. They thought that he was going to, be that next one, and I even thought it, not to doubt myself, but I mean, to be honest, I even thought it, like, when I saw the guy, I was like, I mean, it looks like a tough fight, like, I don't know about this.
What weight was it at?
That fight was a 170 as well.
Okay.
And I didn't gain too much weight, but I did blow up to like maybe 210, something like that. So I always do that, like, and then people always assume that I stay in relatively good shape. I really don't. I mean, yes, I know how to get the weight off, but I love my Mexican food, man. I'm Mexican, and Mexican at heart, and it's hard to say no to your mom's cooking or your wife's cooking. It's fucking hard to say no, bro. So, when you're living like that, it's just hard, but yeah, whenever fight, camp comes around, and I know I got a fight camp coming around, I mean, everything changes. My demeanor changes when it comes to eating. I don't eat any of the bad stuff. I mean, people will offer me a donut, just, have a little piece of donut. No, thank you. I don't need it. You haven't eaten anything. It doesn't matter. I'll wait till I get home. I rather do that than stuff myself with something that I'm gonna have, like, I'm gonna have to bust my ass like 3 hours on the treadmill to get off. It makes no sense.
So I couldn't find any film on this fight at all, but you beat Lester with a decision.
Yeah, I did. I out wrestled him as well, and which is really, really crazy. Because I honestly figured that he was probably going to out wrestle me, and that was going to be probably the case. And I also, to my eyes, I thought I outstruck him standing up as well. I beat him up in the clinch. The clinch is what I want to call my strong point as far as fighting goes. I believe my clinch is where I kind of dissect my opponents, is in the clinch. Like, if I can get you in a tight clinch and a tight lump, I'm gonna do pretty well in the tight lump. Because I can attack with elbows, I can attack with knees, I can come with short elbows, long elbows. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I know where to attack from when I'm in the clinch, and that's where I feel like he was probably not as good at. So I felt like that's where I beat him at. Like, I really felt like I beat him up like that.
So in essence, like, this is your first time fighting outside
STFC.
Yeah, and was there a little bit of nerves because of that?
Yeah, definitely. Not only was it nerves, I found out when I got to the venue that I was going to be co-main event. So that also kind of like,
he was a huge ticket seller.
Yeah. So, like, think about it like this. You're getting to a brand new venue or a brand new organization, and then now all of a sudden you're the co-star, in other words, so it put a lot of pressure on me, because I wanted to do good for the fans as well, that were watching me for the first time in Houston. I wanted to showcase myself properly, and not just go out there again and put out a one class knock or one punch knockout or a one kick knockout or whatever the hell. You know, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that one rounder shit. I really wanted to push the cardio base. So that's why I kind of started dragging out my fights a bit.
So what were the conversations like with the STFC guys about leaving their organization? You had to have that conversation.
Yeah, they were on board, bro. They like I said, they really, really cared and loved me and helped me out. They were, I want to say, the big influence to me being in the UFC, as far as like you said, taking care of me, making sure I did the right things, you know, everything. You know, they really took well care of me and loved me, I think, as well, you know, because like I said, they didn't even give me any second doubts. Like, oh, hey, I got a contract for Legacy. Okay, cool, no problem. Like it was like that.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah, they did not have one single problem whatsoever at all.
You know, I kind of always, it's always good to be loyal. Of course, you're good to be loyal, but there's a rare instance in this world where a promoter or a trainer will say, hey man, no, you've peaked here. You gotta go somewhere else. And you know, when situations like that arise, that is literally the definition of love. Like they genuinely love and care about you. When they say, it's time, bro, you know, you've outgrown here, it's time for you to bounce. Like it's, you know, a lot of times people try to hang on and, you know, manipulate just because, you know, they want to continue getting a piece of, you know, of the pie. But, you know, true love are people that just go, no, man, it's time. You got to go.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and then that's what I felt like they did too. Like they saw that they couldn't give me any more, as far as like they couldn't get any higher. So they felt they knew that my next big step was to go to Legacy and to try to make it there and you know, try to get myself into the UFC from there, you know. And that, you know, by that time, I'm after Legacy, I'm already 11-0. So
when did you get the call?
Yeah, you're getting close.
He's right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 11-0, and I'm actually asleep on my bed right after the fight. My leg is throbbing, mind you. It's throbbing real bad because I guess Lester kicked my calf. I didn't notice it during the fight. My calf swelled up like a balloon the next day. So anyways, I was in pain, and Wade gives me a call. He's like, hey, what's going on, Wade? How you doing? What are you doing? I'm still in bed, man. I'm still, you know, wiping off the cobwebs or whatever. And he's like, hey, well, I got some good news and some bad news. What do you want first? I'm like, all right, well, give me the bad news. What's going on?
Isn't that weird? Sure. Everybody asks for the bad news first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, just get it out of the way.
We always do.
Let's get the bad news out of the way, you know?
Let's rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, well, Legacy let you go. And I was like, oh, well, that sucked. You know, like
I didn't like them anyway. Right?
Yeah, I was like, well, fuck them too, you know? You know, and then like, you know,
send this text now. Give me a second. Give me a second on the good news. I got a text I got to send. Right.
That one now?
So yeah, give me a second. I got a text I got to send before you give me the good news. You know?
Yeah. Let me fucking tell Mick real quick something I need to tell him. And which Mick is a real nice guy also. I love Mick. I actually sparred with Mick. That's one of the rare occasions where you get to beat up your boss. So that was really cool. Anyways, going back to what was I saying? I'm sorry, I lost track. Yeah. He calls me and he tells me, oh, like I told you guys, good news, bad news. Bad news was they let me go, and he goes, the good news is the UFC wants to give you a 3-fight contract. And I kind of like stay quiet for a couple seconds. Like I didn't want to believe him at first, you know. I was like, you're lying to me, right, dude? Like you're fucking with me, right? Like, no. I'll send you the contract in a couple days, and you know, we'll hatch this out, and we'll see when you can take your first fight. And I was like, wow, you know, like finally, you know, 11 fights in, you know, and finally I get this call. You know, it's like, you know, it's what I worked for, you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was that was exciting. You know, when I told all my friends, all my family, I mean, they were overjoyed. You know, it was awesome.
Yeah, pretty emotional time in a fighter's life. You know, it's like all that hard work. You know, the cake that you were served, the donut that you're passing on. It's like those little tiny things along the road that if you didn't do, you may not have gotten it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, taking the stairs instead of the escalator. You know, never mind that elevator. I'm going to run up the stairs. You know.
Exactly. Never take shortcuts. In other words, you know, that's another that I believe strongly in. You know, there's no shortcuts in life. You know, you gotta, you know, just take it as it is. You know.
Well, March 15, 2014, UFC 171 comes to Tejas.
Wow,
dude,
take it back.
You're at 155 pounds now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Dude, did you weigh that? What? How much did you weigh senior year of high school?
275. He was a lineman.
Yeah.
You're 32 years old, making your UFC debut at 155 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something I didn't think I could be able to do. But the thing is, the only thing that was comforting to me or that told me that I could possibly do it was my weigh-in with Lester. I weighed in at 163 with Lester, and I was fighting him at 170. But my body, for some reason, just kept burning fat, and
I way under. Wow.
Yeah, it was real weird.
So you were in striking distance with Lester. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you fight, well, in English, it'd be Rene Forte. In Portuguese, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. And one more time.
Henny Forsh.
Henny Forsh. Yeah, Henny Forsh. Yeah. I'm not going to pretend like I'm, anything other than a white dude from the south side of Chicago. So he missed weight by like 5 pounds. Now, this is a guy with his fourth UFC appearance and was on Tough Brazil.
Yeah.
That's not an easy fight to take.
No, and he's in Noguera black belt. So that was another thing that was kind of like lingering in the back of my head.
How much time did you get to prepare for this?
That fight, I took 2 months exactly.
Okay. Well, then you had enough time. Okay. That's fair enough. A lot of times when they go into a new state and they get like a couple people that drop off, they try to fill it with the guys, that are within driving distance. Okay. Yeah. With decent records. Okay. It wasn't the case. Okay.
No, it wasn't the case. They actually gave me a good amount of time, which was okay, I guess. But the only thing is, I made the 155 cut, but I was weighing 205 right before the cut.
Really? So
I had to drop. You dropped 40 pounds.
Yeah, it was 50 actually.
50
in 2 months. Yeah, 50 in 2 months.
That's almost too much, man.
It is. It's way too much. It's the putting your butt like through the ringer. Like if I thought
it's not about training, it's about losing weight.
Yeah, that's basically all it is. You're just training to lose weight. You're not training to get better. You're training to lose weight. And it becomes really, really stressful on you and on your body, So I mean, that was my problem when it comes to like making weight. I can make weight. It's just give me the right amount of time and I'll make the weight all day. But you cut me off a week. That week hurts,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's literally on a roughly 200-pound man, 50 pounds is roughly 25% of your body weight gone in 2 months, man. That's I can that all the time. I mean, that's something that I would normally do. But
that's not healthy. Just because you say it's normal.
It's
doesn't mean it's good.
I would tell all my students it's not the route to go because I mean, from waterlogging yourself to freaking to reverse osmosis yourself and all sorts of bullshit crap. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Did you do the colonic? Be honest. Did you do the colonic?
Yeah, I did colonic. I'm honest.
Yeah,
I did 2 colonics before my 85 fight. And that's
it gets all that waste out of you, man. Everybody should do it once a year for sure.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If people don't do a colonic, you have shit backed up in there that you fucking had since you were an infant. And that's fucking disgusting if you really think about it. You know, like, so.
Just make sure you got to make sure your practitioner is gentle. That's the only thing that I would recommend.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Or it's a nice looking female.
Dude, Wes Sims, we're going to have Sims on soon. He went to get a colonic and he called me up. This is like before he was in a relationship. He went back like 5 or 6 times. He just couldn't muster up the nerve to ask her out because of the situation that they'd seen each other in. But he legitimately tried. It was like this weird situation. Like, man, I really want to ask her out on a date, but you know, she's put things in my butt.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to put somebody on blast. Man. I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but we got to know. So your fight, UFC 171, you know, you got good management. Obviously, they're the ones that recommended you as an interview.
Definitely. Great management.
For sure.
I love
However, one of your sponsors on the back of your trunks has got blue tape over him. Who is it and what happened?
Damn. I didn't want to go into that one, but okay. Okay.
Good catch, Mike.
Hey, wait. Miguel, this is where you're supposed to say my nickname. I'm not supposed to say that to you. Go ahead. Miguel, go ahead. Say my nickname.
Detective doing his job.
Oh, man, there we go.
So watch. Remember I was telling you Javi De Leon?
Yes, of course. Well, here, why don't we recap it for everybody? Go ahead.
Javi De Leon was one of the owners of the STFC. The UFC has very, very strict rules about promoting another organization on their organization, right?
Yeah.
Well, Javi thought he was slick, gave me some sponsorship money, and he told me maybe it would work. And they put this name on there that said Javi something Valley Motion, because he also ran a Valley magazine down here in the Valley. So he put that in the back of my butt, and the UFC saw it, backtracked it, found out who he was and what he was doing. Nope, can't have that on there. So they put a big blue piece of tape on my butt. I'm like, bro, and I was trying to talk them out of it. Like, I was like, bro, are you serious? You really gonna put this on my butt? And they're like, we got to. I'm like, dude, can't blur it out or something. You know, you guys got the technology for it. Blur it out. You know? No, they didn't want to do that.
Okay, I thought somebody stiffed you. Miguel, I tried, man. I thought I had.
No. Keep in mind,
they actually didn't stiff me. They actually did pay me, but it was like I said, it was that situation that the UFC they're smart. You know, they're smart people. They're about their
job.
They're on their shit. You know, so you're not gonna get past them with something like that. You know,
without knowing too much of the details, though. But by then, you're talking about what, 2014? I mean,
yeah.
For you to be a sponsor of a UFC fighter, you have to pay the UFC. So, like, if he,
I think it was right before that, Miguel.
Okay.
Right before.
Yeah, before that.
The clothing companies had to, but the other people were on the precipice of that happening. But
let's just say that your buddy probably didn't help.
No, he didn't help at all. And I'm not going to say.
So why don't you explain your relationship with him for the viewers at home?
With the UFC?
No, with Javi.
Oh, with Javi. Oh, my relationship with Javi, they're actually, I mean, unfortunately, Javi, you know, he had ties with wrong people, I guess you could say. And we ended up finding out I think he was a part of like some sort of like kingpin ring here in the Valley. And he was arrested, and he's been doing time since then. I believe they gave him 10 years. So I haven't talked to or heard from Javi since then, which is a very unfortunate because
man, you should write him a letter, bro. I bet you he'd love to hear from you.
No, he would. And the thing is, and I would love to send him a letter. I would honestly love to send him a letter, but I don't know where he's at. I don't know what facility he's at. Like I've been trying, like, trust me, I've been trying to get a hold of like some sort of information and see where this guy's at, because he did a lot for me, man. And it sucks that he's in there, and it sucks that, he happened to be involved in that sort of situation. But hey, I didn't force him to do it. He chose to do it on his own. We all make our own mistakes, and we have to learn. We have to learn from him. But is he a good man? Yeah, the guy's a good man. I mean, did he do bad stuff? Hey, yeah, I mean, everybody does. We all have our own demons in a sense, but I mean, some people's demons are worse than others.
So Miguel, earlier on in this podcast, when Frank was talking, I go, Miguel, I wanted to say this is a Randy Greenman type situation with that promotion where, Frank, I'm just going to be very direct with you. And the grassroots of mixed martial arts, the drug trade and the people involved in certain instances, it's quite prevalent. And like you had said, you go into a store in Mexico, you think they're selling candy or little dulces or something like that, but unless somebody pointed it out to you, you really wouldn't know what it was. We've had Antonio McKee on here. We've had Steve Berger on here. Like, we've had Chris Brennan. All of them have said MMA was much better. Well, they haven't said it, but it appears that way. MMA is pretty awesome when they're trying to wash dope money through an organization.
It is, and that's basically why the STFC, unfortunately, I think went down. Once that owner went out, the other owner was left with the baggage and the bad name, pretty much. Like, do you tell me, you being a sponsor, would you want to sponsor an event that has any ties with any sort of crime?
Yeah, no, not legit sponsors.
Yeah, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna do that.
To get the car dealerships.
They would be okay. Yeah, you're just not gonna do that consciously. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I honestly think that the situation with him, or the situation with the STFC, why it is dissolved the way it did, was because of that. It just really couldn't bounce back from the damage that it was already done.
Was it all over the papers?
Huh?
Was it all over the papers?
Yeah, as far as him getting arrested, yeah, it was all over the papers.
Yeah, dude, I had a business partner that he took like 8 years for like embezzling, and like all he had to do was play it straight. It's crazy, the relationships you make in MMA. Like, you deal and hang out with people that you normally would never come into contact with, but you got something in common. You make friends. It's like, I don't know. It's like when you go to a military base, like a city with a military base, and you see a white kid from the South with a cowboy hat on and boots, and with him is his best friend who's, person of color, pants hanging around the ankles with like a sports jersey on. And it's like, how do you two come together like this? Well, we're in the military, and this is my partner, and man, we really care about each other. And just because they're from different walks of life,
yeah,
it's just their life experiences and interactions kind of made them come together, no matter what differences or views of the world that they may have. And MMA certainly falls into that category as well.
It does. I mean, it brings the people that wouldn't be, normally together. It brings them together for some weird reason or another.
Yeah. At some point, we're going to do a podcast with Miguel about his dealings with people from Russia, but that's for a different time. And Miguel has repeatedly said no about that. So we're going to talk about UFC. What's that?
It's going to be short.
Right. So UFC 188, he handled Bodog, Abu Dhabi, Euphoria, dude, hook and shoot. So Miguel has got a really, crazy resume in regards to the grassroots of mixed martial arts. But we're not talking about Miguel. We're talking about yourself, June 13th, 2013, UFC 188, Hollywood Johnny case.
Man, that was a fight that I was really, really nervous for.
Okay.
And because I knew he was a good fighter.
He's huge.
Yeah, he's a good fighter.
He was much bigger than you too, and it's at 155.
Yeah, he's a big guy. You know, he's not small. You know, he should have probably been fighting at 70 normally. You know, but I mean, he's a good fighter, man. I mean, he's a talented guy.
Very talented.
Yeah, very talented guy. But I honestly thought that I could probably do fairly well against him if it wasn't for one particular incident that happened in the training sessions that I was in Mexico City. These kids, they don't know about safety, I guess. When we train here in the Valley, or even anywhere that I've trained before, spinning heel kicks are a no-no, you know. Spinning heel kicks, you hit somebody with the heel on the jaw, dude, or on the side of the temple. I mean, there's no pulling back from that.
Like a hammer.
Exactly. There's no pulling back on that. I mean, it's going to hit you on the side of the head, you know. I don't expect these things whenever we're sparring and stuff like that because people don't throw them, you know. In a fight, it's different, you know. You'll expect anything because it's a fight, you know. But in a sparring session, you're not really thinking that it's going to cause you're in any danger, you know. So this young kid freaking, I guess, wants to shine, sparring with me, freaking throws a spinning heel kick and lands clean right on the side of my jaw. And I had like a little flash knockdown, like where I fell, kind of popped back up. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you little, like, and I kind of got upset, you know, because I was like, dude, like, why would you do that? You know, that was stupid. Like,
he's trying to make a name for himself, and you got a UFC fight coming up.
I got a fight coming up, and you want to go and put me down like that? That's stupid, you know? So, you know, that fight happens, and I mean, that situation happens, and the whole time I'm training in Mexico, I mean, I just have a bad jaw problem, man. I mean, anything that would hit me, would fuck with me, would bother me. And when I got into the fight with Johnny, I was very, very, very hesitant. And you can see it in the fight. I didn't want to pull. I didn't want to pull the trigger. I was tentative to pull the trigger. I wasn't myself that fight. I really wasn't, you know.
Johnny Case, I thought he had a really high ceiling, and he ended his UFC career with 2 wins. I don't know what that was about. I'd like to get him on here eventually, but he's a kid from Iowa. You know, he's got a ton of upside. He's a black belt under Miles Jury. He's with Eric Del Fiero in Alliance. And I don't know if he was at a standoff with the UFC or what took place there, but yeah, I guarantee there's an interesting story.
Bro, whenever that fight ended, me and Johnny actually became real good friends after that. And whenever that fight happened, I was really, you know, like humbled because I didn't get put out by Johnny, which Johnny was putting everybody out by then. You know, he was knocking out everybody pretty much. You know, most of the people they would fight, he was putting them down. And I felt in my heart that it was I in itself won a victory because he didn't put me out. You know, he didn't knock me out.
Dude, he's tough, man. Like, you know, I that fight, watching that fight, you know, live, I thought for sure that kid was going to be in the top 10 one day.
Yeah, I did too. I honestly thought that I was going to see him one day, you know, maybe compete for a title or maybe even, you know, come close to maybe even the top 5.
Have his name mentioned, you know, in regards to it.
That what now?
Do you know why he left the UFC?
I don't, but I know that it was very, very dumb for them to let him go because, I mean, he wasn't losing. And I thought it was very stupid that they let him go, but kept Sage. That made no sense to me.
Yeah, it was weird. Well, that's your next fight. So you lost the decision to Johnny Case.
How do you take that though? Because like you're undefeated. You even got, you know, stayed undefeated in the UFC, which that's not easy winning your first UFC fight. And now this has got to be a little bit of a wake up? Like, how are you feeling? How's your mindset?
It was a little bit of a change. I mean, it humbled me. It's what it did. It sat me back down to where I originally was at, which was grounded, you know, and knowing exactly that, you know, hey man, you know, that you just got to work up a little bit harder, you know. And I have no excuses in that event other than, you know, the injury that I had, because I had freaking, I think 12 weeks to get ready for that fight. I left well in time to get ready for the acclimation. I felt I was ready. You know, I felt I was in shape and I was ready to go. You know, I didn't come up with the decision, unfortunately, but hey, man, Johnny's a tough guy. You know, he was timing those takedowns perfectly. You know, every time I threw a straight or every time I threw something, I mean, he was coming in just, you know, doing that leg sweep on me, and he just continued to do it. And I mean, it was hard to stop it because I never competed against somebody at that level of wrestling as well. So, and that's another thing that I feel like the UFC didn't do with me. I feel like they did that with a lot of other fighters where they kind of like helped them out along the way. They didn't do that with me. I didn't get sent to no camps. I didn't get no nutritional coaches. I didn't get anything, nothing from them. You know, the only thing I got was a contract saying I needed to be here and there, and that's it. You know, and I mean, I just think, you know, if you're going to take care of one fighter, take care of all fighters. Don't just take care of one fighter. Don't get on this bias shit. You know, like let's treat everybody equally. You know, but obviously we can't live in a perfect world, and that unfortunately did happen. You know, it sucks.
Yeah.
Hey, before we leave Mexico City, we talked a little bit about Cain Velasquez. That's where he lost his title to We're Done. Was that at least a little bit of feel good for you? How'd that feel?
Let's just say I was celebrating with Verdum the whole time.
Yeah, is Verdum a guy that the Mexicans like? Because I know he lives there.
They love Verdum. And another reason why is the exact same reason they love Vanderlei, because they take care of their fans. They interact with the fans. You know, shit, freaking Verdum talks perfect Spanish. Like, so he can literally have a conversation with you perfectly. Yeah, whereas Cain doesn't speak a lick of Spanish. You know, like, how is that possible, bro? You know, like, I just don't understand it. You know, like, if you can, I just think, like, if you dedicate yourself enough to learn a little bit of a language, hey, man, at least learn how to say freaking hi, you know, like, in my opinion. But if you don't know how to even do that, I mean, what the hell are you doing? How can you put that stuff on your chest? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm real proud when it comes to being a Mexican, and
as you should.
That irritates me real bad. It just really, really does.
You know, we had Antonio McKee on, and McKee's, you know, proud black. He's, I'm a proud black man, as he should be, of course. You know,
the interesting thing about that fight, though, to me, and the thing that I think might make it a little sweet for you is, what was Cain known for? He was known as a cardio machine, as a guy that you couldn't outpace. But, you know, he screwed up. We're done. Had been living in Mexico City, acclimating to the atmosphere.
3 months.
And he beat him on cardio. It's a beautiful move.
Yeah, dude. Like, and the thing is, we knew whenever Cain landed, we're like, oh, he's fucked. Like, we knew. Like, everybody was talking about it. All the Mexicans were talking about it. We all knew he was going to lose that fight, you know, because there was no way he was going to be able to keep up with Verdum. Verdum was trained up in the mountains, freaking going up hills and shit like that, freaking doing pad work and throwing weights down the freaking hill and picking them back up and going right back up the hill. I mean, he was getting his ass whooped up there, you know, and there's no way he was going to be able to compete with Verdum at that time. Not at all.
Just for context, for the fans out there who may not know, Mexico City is at more altitude. It's higher up than Denver. So, like, you know, you can't train in the States anywhere that's that high up. So it is a different, you know, Cain wasn't ready.
No, you can't get ready for something like that here in the States. You got to get your ass to Mexico. And and also you have to take into consideration, it's not pollution. It's not just the air, it's the pollution in the air. There's bad pollution in that air. And if you're not used to that shit, it will burn your fucking lungs. It'll make you feel like shit.
So the cars, like the gas there is like, you'll see like a number on the side of the pump, like an octane number. In Mexico, the gas is a lot dirtier, and I think the emissions They have an easier. I know if you buy a car in Mexico, you've got to have additional things put onto it in order to kind of help with the emissions because their laws are very lax.
Yeah, you have to Americanize the vehicle.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Most people don't.
No, most people don't. I mean, most people are still over here somewhere or another, and they'll find somewhere or another, especially here in the valley. You'll find a buddy of yours that'll freaking give you a passing freaking registration thing. They'll hey, there you go. You know,
Right.
It's easy as hell to do here.
Yeah, pour this in your gas tank, you'll pass. Right.
Exactly.
So UFC 192, you mentioned his name already, Sage Northcutt.
Yeah.
What happened there? You had a hard camp. I know you missed weight by 5 pounds.
First of all, they called me again, very short notice, 7 weeks. And again, weighing 205. And this kid had just came off a fight. And the way he told me about it, I'm like, dude, I don't really think I want to take that fight right now. And he kind of told me they're not really giving you a choice. Like you're either taking.
There's no options in the UFC.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're not giving you a choice. You either take this fight or you're gone. You're done. And I'm like, well, fuck. All right. Well, it's like that. Well, let's do the fight then. So I start getting ready for the fight. And literally, bro, it's like everything was destined to fuck me up or something. I don't know. Me and one of my students were training, and he, for some reason or another, tells me, hey, you want to wrestle? And I said, cool, let's wrestle. So freaking, I'm over here, in my wrestling stance, trying to, get into him and shoot in or whatever. And while my hand's out like that, this motherfucker grabs my arm and he goes for a freaking neck throw or hip throw, whatever the fuck. My head went straight onto the mat. I scorpioned over 205 pounds over my neck. I was rolling around the freaking ground for freaking, I want to say about 30, 45 minutes until I finally got up. I was able to feel something back in my arm because I couldn't feel my arm either. And I immediately called Wade and I said, Wade, I don't think I can do this fight, bro. This guy just fucking spiked the shit out of me. And I got to go to the doctor, bro. And he's like, bro, well, I can't pull you out. He goes, let's just play it by ear, play it by ear. Let's go one day at a time and see how you feel. So the whole time that I'm training for this fight, trying to lose weight and trying to do everything, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm in a shitload of pain. I'm trying to bear with it. I'm trying to push through it, and I can't. I really can't. So I do the most stupidest thing, possible. Start smoking some bud. Try to relieve that tension on my neck, dude, because I could not go to sleep. So I smoked bud for 2 weeks, three weeks. I stopped the 4th week. 4 weeks out of the fight, I stopped. I still pop dirty. I don't know how. I don't know how. Even to this day, I still don't know how.
If I may give the kids at home some advice, you're probably thinking I'm going to say don't smoke marijuana. I will say use the middle of your urine stream because a lot of times the metabolites come out either in the beginning or the end. I have seen hardened junkies beat dope tests by using the middle of their urine stream. Truth be, that's the truth.
And that's the truth. Yes, correct. And like I said, I wasn't thinking like I was gonna be dirty. I was thinking I was clean. I was thinking 4 weeks. No big deal. I should be good. I wasn't really a heavy smoker, so I felt like I was gonna be all right.
So they find you too, huh?
Yeah. Well, they fined me for that, and then I missed weight 4 pounds. So they're upset about that. And then the fight happens. I throw a kick and I slip and I land right on my face. Like literally, like my head did this, like it rebounded off the ground. And I rocked myself when that happened. I literally rocked the shit out of myself. I saw everything kind of spun.
And I immediately get up and start backing up because I see him kind of rushing at me. Mind you, he's not hitting shit, not hitting dick. He gets in like maybe 1 or 2 jabs or that sneak in. And then he goes in for that takedown. Takes me down. Again, I still think I'm fine. I turn over. I feel he hit me. He's hitting me in the back of the head with his elbow. So like he's literally hitting me in the back of the head. So again, I think I'm okay because the referee's going to tell him to stop, move his punches or something. Then I feel like his body's like in close to me. So I felt like I was going to try to grab him and maybe push him towards him. When I did that, they stopped the fight and I get up like, what in the fuck are you doing? I'm fine. I'm not.
But Herb Dean was a referee.
Yeah. And that's, I didn't even push him. That's what pisses me off the most, that I didn't even push him.
Did you get fined for that as well?
I got fired for that. I didn't get fined. I got fired. I got the big boot. You know, I got the big boot for putting my fucking hands on fucking Herb Dean. It fucking cost me the fight because he fucking refereed it incorrectly like he does most of his fucking fights. Like, unfortunately, it's the truth. He either stops the fights too damn soon or too damn late. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not an easy job. It's not an easy
job.
It's
not, but I'll tell you one thing. I'd much rather have John McCarthy referee my fight or that other guy, John Murgliata, do my fight any day of the week.
Yeah, Murgliata. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any day of the week. Those guys are on point. I've never seen a fight where they referee and they either stop it too soon or stop it too late. You know, they're pretty much on point. You know, it's very rare that you see them make a mistake. You know, and Herb is notorious for that. He's fucking notorious for that. You know, and I honestly think he made a bad call with me. I was not out. I was still in the fight, and Sage would have never won that fight. And that's my bottom truth. Sage would have never won that fight. I would have beat the shit out of Sage.
Let me ask you too. You said, you know, now is it retrospect when you said, you know, you didn't get help with nutrition or coaching or get taken to a seminars and things like that. Did you feel like that Sage was already getting some of that type of shine? Did you feel that?
Dude, he got a freaking seminar given to him freaking 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before he fought me.
Yeah, and that was his debut.
Exactly. So I don't understand this shit. How are you gonna go and give somebody that's just entering the fucking UFC because he looks like a fucking pretty boy? You're gonna give this fucking pretty boy a fucking all this attention and all this fucking extra training, but you're not gonna give his opponent that? That's fucking trash. Sorry to say, trash. To me, in my opinion, trash. You know, it's not right. You know, you're gonna
who gave him a seminar?
Huh?
Who gave him a seminar?
I don't know. It was a UFC seminar. They sent a whole bunch of guys out there. I know my buddy Diego Ferreira went out there, and that's actually how I found out. Diego Ferreira was actually in my corner in that event, and he told me that they had flown him out for a seminar and whatnot.
I think they probably bring certain fighters into the UFC training center and offer them coaching from the guys that are around there, which is a bunch of them, you know. It's a privilege and probably about $5,000 in hotel and travel.
It really is a privilege, and I feel like it should be given to everybody, not just a certain amount of a short few. You know, all those fighters like need the help. You know, we don't make the fucking $1,000 fucking or $1 million that other people fucking make. You know, we don't do that shit. You know, so hold on.
Sage got signed to a huge contract because there was so much regional hype, and you know the thing. You
he
know,
got paid more than I did too.
What's that?
He got paid way more than I did too.
He got paid more than everybody. So in essence, like a lot of those West Coast fighters, they have a little bit more opportunity there because they're so close to Vegas, which is where the UFC's headquartered. So the rumor mill and kind of the hot fighter in regards to,
I think we just lost them.
You know, in regards to, I'll finish my statement. In regards to like who, you know, who should be on the UFC radar. That's why a lot of times you see the guys from California with 5 and 6 fights. They tend to get fast tracked there. So, I mean, I think his phone died, Miguel, but I think he had 2 more fights after this against JJ Ambrose. and we're kind of at the tail end. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
give him a second to see if he comes back, and we could do a righteous close. If not, I probably had one or two more Sage Northcutt questions, but I think basically we got some clips.
yeah. So Miguel, do you? I mean, I know you've got the poster of Sage in your bedroom. Were you upset to see Sage cut from the UFC?
No, the poster of Sage is right there next to the signed Bruce Buffer picture. This is my personal collection of stuff there. No, I don't know Sage, but
Miguel, hold up. I mean, listen, we know what's in your bedroom. I've got an autographed picture, it's like a 16 by 20 of Cecil Peoples in my bedroom.
Oh, I'll trade you.
Yeah.
I'll trade.
Even though it says to Mike.
Hey, I'm a Mike.
It's Miguel.
Hey. So, the thing about Sage is that, it's one of the things where, like, as a matchmaker and like developing fighters and things like that, it's the UFC that took the wrong approach with him. They could bring him along and test him like, a certain way, or they could give him privilege and money up front and set expectations too high. And you look at it, I think they handled him incorrectly. And I think the fact is at 18, you said, but you said before, 19. Okay, so 19, he's great and he's a phenom. He's talented.
Child.
Have a pretty Vegas model catch his eye and see how fast, you're still not 100% sure that this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I think that's played out with him. I don't think he's got that Vanderlei Silva type of like, this is the only thing I've got in life. I'm doing this, fighting.
I can respond to that. So in essence, Sage was pretty protected, including in the practice room. At times, his parents would be at practice to kind of monitor things. And but here, like the South Texas Fighting Championship, I mean, clearly they're running dope money through it. Fantastic organization, taking care of the fighters, sparing no expense in regards to production. And like that level of, I don't know where I'm going with this. They brought, Frank Trevino up through the ranks and cared and loved them. And in Sage's instance, he was such a huge ticket seller that the promotion really didn't have the opportunity. They didn't really have the option other than to take care of him. Like, he was always making more money than everybody. It's kind of like the Patty Pimblett. Like, when the UFC started to negotiate with him, he said, I'm not ready yet. I need a few more fights here. He was really smart about it. He knew he wasn't elevating yet. And when the UFC was ready to come around, he's saying, well, I'm kind of making $25,000, $30,000 a fight right now. Like, thank you. I respect your offer. But if I just stay here, I can actually make a living fighting. If I fight with you, I can't do that. And it kind of affects that entry level, contract, with the UFC.
The entry level contract, I'm going to assume that Frank got, and Frank hasn't bounced back on, so you're probably right, his cell died. But I'm going to assume he probably got no more than 3-3 for his first fight. Maybe jumped to 4-4, 5-5 for his next fight. Took a loss.
Who?
Frank Trevino.
Oh, for sure.
So maybe he's at 5-5. If he's lucky for his second fight, lost it. So he goes into the Sage fight for the same amount, 5-5.
With a fine attached to it.
And meanwhile, the other kid's got
20,
a better payday, maybe, for sure. And he's being flown to Vegas so that he can train with, maybe jiu-jitsu with Mark Lehman, maybe striking with, Rafael Cordero, whoever's been in town at that time. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they create a divide. And it's even more gaping, when you're like Frank and you're sitting there looking at it, it really is offensive because that's not how you run a sport,
Yeah. So anyway, Miguel,
that was
good little South Texas, little roundup. We got our questions in regards to, some of the notable characters that we know from the area. We always like kind of talking about some of the shadier sides of the independent grind, and we got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think, for a guy that had, an under 20 fight official career, we got a couple hours because he had some things to reveal and talk about and some interesting politics and stuff. And yeah, the rise to the big show is very interesting. And here's a guy with the Mexican ties and things you think, in judging, maybe as a guess, but if they had come back to him, instead of cutting him and firing him, they'd come back to him and said, look, we're going to go back to 2-2, 4-4, 6-6. I think they would have had him and he would have said yes. They would have had a viable athlete there. I don't know. So yeah, I don't think they got enough out of him. I don't think they got enough out of him. He's doesn't have a lot of miles. I think there was more potential there.
Well, I mean, obviously you're undoubtedly correct. One of the issues also is how he left. Missed weight, failed the drug test, pushed the referee.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's it. You're done.
Yes, but at the same time, beat up an old man in a bar, throw a wheelie thing through a bus window. You know what I mean? It's like there are different, just like he said, for the application of perks, there seem to be different rules for different people. And yeah, Frank as a as all you gotta do is ask
Anthony Johnson in regards to that question. He'll tell you for sure. Yeah.
And Frank is a roster member who was still trying to, jockey for position on the roster.
I think he's here, Miguel.
He got 3 strikes. Oh, there he is. 2. All right. Does he come back? Is he coming back? I missed him. Did I do the wrong thing here?
There he is.
All right.
Here, let me handle this, Miguel. Well, Miguel, we've just wrapped up his career with his final 2 fights without him. We don't really need him anymore.
Hey, man, my bad, bro. My bad. My phone died right when I was talking to you guys. I'm so sorry.
No, anyway, Frank, we kind of wrapped things up, and we had talked about your career with Sage Northcutt and how, or your last fight in the UFC with Sage Northcutt, about how the relationship probably didn't end well, and it's just kind of a lot of moving parts. You missed weight, you failed the piss test, and the referee, you kind of I don't know, gotten Herb Dean's personal space. I think that's how I properly describe that.
It's like I said. I mean, it's unfortunate that the trifecta, I guess you want to call it. Everybody, that's what everybody else called it. The trifecta effect that happened to me. I mean, it's unfortunate, like first I miss weight, then that situation happens with piss test, and then I push Herb. So I mean, it was a big clusterfuck in a sense. I mean, there's nothing I can't redeem myself in a sense anymore from that. I just have to take it the way it is. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go back and make a proper name for myself.
I think where you can kind of turn that corner is getting fighters to the UFC and cornering them.
Yeah, and that's exactly my goal now. It's not me anymore. It's my guys. My future, the future of South Texas. That's what my goal is now. Now it's time to make somebody else from South Texas, and actually, home breed them, not having to go and train in 10 different other gyms, just to make it to the UFC, which isn't bad. I'm not knocking anything on that, but I just think that you want one person himself, I think can get a person, in that spot if it's done the right way. If you do it the right way, I believe you can get there. It's all you really need.
Yeah, and we were just saying to Mike, you mentioned, like, for example, with Sage, that he got some perks that you didn't get. And it seems like from the other direction, you get hit the same way because, you failed the drug test. Maybe you got Herb Dean's face a little bit and stuff like that. But how is that compared to, like, punching a DJ, beating up an old man in a bar, throwing oh
my God.
So
okay.
Having your coke dealer on stage will accept a UFC Hall of Fame award, like here.
Exactly. Okay. Well, then that's a good point that you guys brought up, because I actually mentioned that the day I signed my contract to fight Henny Forsch. There's a clause on the contract, on the UFC contract, that says we cannot, and I repeat, we cannot climb on the fence or celebrate on the fence or get anywhere near the fence. But yet, because if you do, you'll be billed, and it's in parentheses, you'll be billed $1 million if you do that. And my question, as soon as I saw that clause, I looked up to the lady and I said, does this qualify as well to Conor McGregor? And she just kind of smirked. And I'm like, come on, man. Come on. Like,
and he's the only one who can afford it, the fucks.
Yeah.
But why fucking do that? Why fucking do that is my question. You know, like a lot of these other guys, like especially some of the new up and comers, they don't got a fucking $1 million to fucking spend on a fucking line because you guys put up a clause that says that we can't climb on the fence. You know?
Yeah, no, it's meant to scare you, but yeah.
So Frank, let me just kind of, I mean, we're wrapping up right now, but in essence, like when newer football players get traded to the Dallas Cowboys, they sit them down and or you know, the Houston, any major sports team in Texas, they say, life's a little different here. And we're not just talking about the conceal and carry laws or, you know, the big oil money, but there's going to be people that approach you, you know, from south of the border with large amounts of money and quantities of drugs that you can't even wrap your head around.
Yeah.
How often did you encounter or know that something like that was around you in the independent MMA scene in South Texas?
I mean, all the time. I mean, I knew what was going on. I just kept my nose in my own business. I didn't get involved. You know, I didn't want to be involved. So I kept my nose out of it. You know, as best as you can do. I mean, try not to. The best advice I can give anybody if they're running into something like that is just try to look the other way. You know, like don't pay attention to it. You know, the more you pay attention to it, the deeper you get involved, and you might even be contributing to it later. You know, you never know. You might even be a partner later. You know, you never know. So it's best just not to even get involved and just kind of keep to yourself and whatnot. Because if you do go that route, I mean, it's very hard to get out of it.
See,
you
say that
a partner, or you could find yourself involved and contributing later, or you could find yourself headless.
Yeah, many parts. So, you know, you say that, but it takes an incredible amount of maturity to do something like that. Look at Leonard Garcia, for instance. We've had Leonard on, and he told us the story. Like, he was very direct in regards to it. He said, yeah, man, I'd go and hang out with these guys who seem like cool people. They're doing things that I wasn't doing, but, you know, I almost got put in jail for it. Like, it's a slippery slope, man.
It really is. And it's all who you hang around with, really. I got plenty of man. I have this one fighter that was I mean, he's to me, I thought he was going to be one of the next ones to go to the UFC, because I mean, he's just an incredible kickboxer, but he got mixed up with the wrong people, man. I mean, he can't get his life straight, you know, when it comes like from drugs to drinking, alcohol. I mean, he just can't get his life straight, man. I mean, this just he doesn't help himself, you know. And I try my best to try to help him and try to gain him the right way, and trying to like to tell him to understand, to get him to understand, like, hey, bro, like, it's still not too late for you. You're still young. He's like 28 still, like, so he's still got some time. And I mean, the kid's like 3 or 4-0. I mean, the way things are going right now, I mean, you are who you hang out with. Yeah, but the way I see it, the way you fight, if you go and fight 2 more times, you're in the UFC. The way things are going on right now, you know, I mean, people are freaking losing fights and they're getting contracts. You know, that's what I'm telling. Like I think if he were to just dedicate himself and actually put himself on the ball, he'd be another one in the UFC. But he just doesn't want it. Doesn't want to do it.
No. So, Frank, I'm going to ask you to hang on. We're going to wrap up. We're wrapping up right now. We really appreciate your time. I'd like to have a conversation when we're not recording. But man, seriously, thank you for your time, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me. I really had a blast. You took me down memory lane pretty much. So I mean, it was awesome. I mean, we didn't touch too much on my other fights that happened after the UFC, but it's no problem. But yeah, I mean, it was an honor, man. It was an honor to share this podcast with you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on. I mean, it was awesome. Thank you guys a lot.
No, for sure. You're a dude that, the record and things like that, you may not be remembered by all the fans out there and stuff like that, but now your story definitely memorable. Thank you very much, man.
100%.
Definitely worth the time.
I appreciate it. I hope the story was as good as Wade said it was.
Absolutely. Yeah, you came highly recommended from your manager, man. Yeah.
So he's still taking care of you too.
Yeah, Wade's always taking care of me. So I like I said, that guy, I'll never have any sort of like hate for him or any ill will. That I'll always hold him dear in my heart. As long as I live, he's an awesome guy.
All right, so Miguel, don't hang up, Frank. Miguel, stop that recording.
And that's the Lights Out Podcast. Frank Trevino in the books. Well, Mike, we went a little long with Frank, but for good reason. I think I feel like I walked to Texas, dude.
Well,
a little tired, but very happy.
Yeah, our goal is to kind of get to know, like personally, on a personal level, the scene. So it's really important to kind of like, all right, we're mentioning a whole bunch of guys that maybe have never made it to the UFC or never really was on a UFC radar. But at the end of the day, it's those people that made the scene important. So if there's a rivalry happening locally and it's your build up to get to the UFC, it's getting mentioned here. You're not going to be able to really find that anywhere else. And that's kind of where we cut our teeth.
In Frank's case, you're talking about a guy that got to the UFC and never received any love. I mean, at all. And we'll let him speak for it. But I do feel that he has that bittersweet feel to it at the end of the interview there, like he wish it had been different, Yeah. And that's, yeah, I could definitely see his point. I could definitely see his point because I don't feel the UFC bought him in with any love. They bought him in, like you said, to lay the foundation. This is the brick at the bottom that no one sees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that the kid, or he's not a kid anymore, but the guy is a successful gym now, and he's gone on, and he's
great story,
and he's a positive dude. Without, you can get him talk shit about Cain Velasquez and stuff like that, like we got, but overall, there's not a lot of bitterness there, and that's also a testament.
No, he's got a great story, and that's kind of what this is all about. And I tell you, it was kind of harrowing listening to him say, "Yeah, I won't go to the border towns in Texas, in Mexico." Which part? Yeah, dude, I've been there. It is. Yeah, it's weird. Like you see life, just the value of your life and people's around you, just significantly less than what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, we've talked about the famous show where Aaron Riley fought on the border, and John Lober was there, and Tito Ortiz was the ref, and from the '90s, and those towns. I don't think it's gotten any safer on that border.
No. Yeah, Anthony McGee having a gun pulled on him.
Yeah, dead promoters littered on there and stuff. So definitely an interesting. Frankie, muchas gracias, mi amigo. Fue un placer tenerte aquí y la próxima vez lo hacemos en español.
Yeah. So Frank Trevino. Also, ladies and gentlemen, Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro. Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro is taking place in Orlando, Florida, April 16th. If you guys like, share, and subscribe. April 6th, I think, is it 6th or 8th? We're at Bourbon Street in Chicago. First Saturday in April, I want to say. I got to get my plugs right, Miguel. I'll have it right for the next interview. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Chicago in April, Orlando, Florida in April. Please sign up to the Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro through Smooth Comp, and hope to see you there.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.